Yay, we're back. You were away for 2 weeks. Felt like way more.
It was more than 2 weeks now because my flight got canceled. Yeah. Beautiful though.
Yeah. So you said you do this every year for the past 12 years.
Yep. This was my 12th year going to Hawaii.
Family. Trip. Friends.
Kinda. Yeah. My grandmother has a timeshare there, so we go once a year. Depends on who wants to go that year. Last year, it was just me and like my cousins my age and my significant other. And this year was just like my great aunt and a couple of my cousins that are older. So I was the youngest one with older people. So
all the boomers.
Yeah, literally. So that was fun. Well, it was fun. We did a lot of things I haven't done before, but it wasn't like crazy like it was the year before.
Yeah. So do you go with the intention of like spending a majority of the time looking for wildlife? Is that like
that's like my thing. Every time I go, I like to go snorkel. I have a specific underwater camera thing that I got.
I was curious about what that was.
Yeah.
Does it have like strobes?
It doesn't have a strobe, but it does have like a red lens to help like balance
like the light and
yeah.
Because it looked like you were pretty decently underwater.
Oh yeah,
where like my camera probably wouldn't like.
Yeah, I think the max I went at was maybe 30, 40 feet, and that's mainly just to go around like the corner to different like rock sections or coral sections on the cliffs. Otherwise, it's usually like 10, 15 feet I stay at. That's where you find a lot of like turtles, a lot of fish, all types of fish.
That must be fun. Do they, are you like allowed, or is it against the rules to like swim up and interact with like a turtle?
It's illegal.
It's illegal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to stay at least 5 feet away.
Okay.
Like, I love the turtles, but at this point, I've gone so many times, I'm like, it's $1 a turtle, or whatever the saying is, where it's like a dime a dozen, almost. And also people like crowd and harass them. So the turtles can actually drown themselves if they're too like scared to swim back up. They'll stay underneath like a rock ledge and drown themselves. So I usually don't say tell people when I find turtles, because otherwise it's gonna be harassed. And usually if I see people already around a turtle, I don't go near it. Yeah, it's one of the bummer parts of Hawaii is people don't listen, stay off the coral, and then go swim 10 feet and someone's standing on the coral. And it's definitely not helping with, the natural habitat. It's definitely degrading over the years.
Yeah, we were talking the other day. You said there was like a noticeable difference between
my first year and then, yeah,
just what really the sad abundance of the wildlife.
Abundance of wildlife and the coral itself, too. Like, it used to be so much more widespread, larger reefs, and now it's just like smaller sections. And
what's like the main contributor to that decline?
Well,
fishing?
Global warming is a big one. I know there's a bunch of people that are like, oh, it's not warming, whatever. But the warmer waters are killing certain coral species. People, stepping on them, standing on them, breaking pieces off to, take things home, And
coral is alive?
Alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like it's
an organism, yeah. Okay, yeah. And it takes forever for those things to grow. The aquarium down there actually has like a coral propagation program where they grow coral and then plant it out into the ocean, hope to rebuild some of that, destructed areas.
It's almost like the rainforest and chopping down trees.
Yeah,
like
chopping down the trees, the oil, all that stuff is in the rainforest. Yeah. Antarctica, obviously melting away as we speak.
Yeah, I see a lot of polar bears that look like they're just having a rough time.
Yeah.
Sad.
They look nasty and gross and muddy and not white.
Yeah. Were you scared at all going in the water or no? You're pretty confident?
I'm pretty confident. My heart rate does, elevate a little bit when I see like a couple years ago, I saw a couple of sharks, not too much, but like they're reef sharks. They're typically harmless. They're usually like 6 feet, but
yeah, they're harmless till they might bite you.
yeah, I mean, they're more scared of us than we are of them. Usually when you see them, they swim off. The one of the reefs that I love going to that's being destroyed by people is used to have a bunch of them at the outer edge, and now you can't even find one. So, which is a bummer. But
yeah, that's like super iconic. I feel if you could see a shark, like that's like like
and they're
so
just
cool.
small reef sharks too, and they're like puppies almost. They'll follow like scuba divers and like snorkelers who are like they know are hunting. Like the natives there are allowed to hunt whatever they want, and they have like fishing spears. And one of the times they found like a invasive, I forget what type of fish, but he spear shot at it and like took it and then like tossed it up in like the water as much as you could toss something up in water. And the shark came, swam over, grabbed it, and swam off. It was pretty badass.
Oh, that's awesome. You got to witness that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be scared. Especially, were you in the water when it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Thanks. I'll stick to photographing dogs.
It could be so much more fun, though, Lots of stuff down there.
No, it was cool, like, especially seeing, like, the eels.
The eels are one of my favorites.
Like, I don't know, I always, when I think of eels, think, like...
Electric eel and stuff like that, yeah.
Freaky little
I love
creature.
the morays. They're so beautiful, and they come in so many different, like, colorations and species and stuff like that. That's one of my favorites.
And you had an encounter with your most hated...
Oh, yeah, jellyfish.
Yeah.
It was just a baby little man-o-war. It was a full moon, which is why it was like in the area. And I was rock jumping. And so
does the moon affect like where they,
I think it's something to do with it. I don't know the exact science of it. But typically full moon in Hawaii, you have to be careful of man-o-war jellyfish.
Weird creature.
And it is so weird. And the waves were rough that day, so it was hard to get like a steady shot of it because I'm getting crashed a million times, and I'm like trying to stay away, and I'm getting pushed towards it. And I was rock jumping from that area, so I was like, if I jump, I'm gonna land on this. So I ended up moving it with I took my mask off and like scooped it up like a bucket almost. And
okay, so it was real small because wouldn't.
Yeah,
aren't
I
they?
think it was like maybe like this big.
Okay.
And then the tentacle itself was maybe like 6 to 9 inches long. Not tentacle, but the stinger. It still managed to get me though.
Yeah.
It left a little nasty burn there, but otherwise it stung and my arm was numb and tingly at the same time, which is weird, but I looked it up and it said I was fine. So,
but that's cool that like, ooh, they're coming for you, bad boys.
I know.
That's cool that you can come like face to face with like your quote unquote
fear,
biggest feared animal or whatever, and just like handle it like a boss. Like if
it was bigger, I probably would have just been like, okay, I guess I'm not rock jumping today, so.
That's cool though.
But it was a smaller one, so I was like, I think I can handle this. And there was like little kids around. I'm like, someone's gonna not see this and know what it is and just like pick it up or swim into it. And
do they? Is the shock a defensive mechanism?
So it's not really defense. It's more like it's just how like it's so hard to explain because jellyfish are so weird. But it's if fish get stuck in it. And it digests and, kills the fish that way.
Almost like what's that plant? The Venus flytrap, how it just kind of rots in its...
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
It kind of gets stuck and just...
Well, the whatever they're releasing, I believe, is like breaking down the fish, and they like absorbs
so it's
the
a
fish.
quicker process.
I think it's quicker. The fish get stuck in like, I keep saying tentacles, but it's not tentacles. There's probably some fancy term or something. I just can't think of it.
This works for me. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And like a jellyfish itself is like organisms almost. The way they exist, that's why they like freak me out so much. It's like how do you exist?
Yeah.
Where's your brain? Where's your heart? Where's your where's anything?
Yeah.
They're just like a trash bag in the water,
It's true.
And that's why turtles eat trash bags and suffocate, because they eat jellyfish, some species, and they look similar. That's a thing to think about.
Favorite type of turtle right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to say that I've seen online quite a few efforts of people putting into like cleaning the ocean, which makes me happy, because I know that isn't there some like Texas-sized like trash heap out in
I would believe it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's disgusting. We're disgusting as a species.
Yeah,
so.
we've ruined the world. But yeah, today I guess welcome back.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had a fun 2 weeks.
And you had a fun weekend too?
Yeah, sled dog racing. It was the first one with snow.
Yeah.
Which
those photos came out really nice.
Yeah, so initially my friend Ashley, who I went to the first one with, she was planning on going with her friends Steve and Dawn, who own like 23. I think they just had 5 puppies. So
oh my
like
goodness, so a lot.
28 huskies.
Oh,
it's crazy.
28 too many for me.
Yeah. But they've got like, I don't even know, like expansive land like you wouldn't believe. They run the dogs with an ATV every day. Like it's real cool. But so someone who's actually set up to actually keep huskies.
Yeah.
It's not, they don't have 23 and it's like this awful, neglectful situation. They're really good. So last year, I guess there was like way too much snow and their trailer got stuck because the trailer is carrying, they don't bring 23 dogs, but he runs an 8-dog team, a 6-dog team, and then Ashley runs a 6 or 4-dog team. So I mean that's
a decent amount
20
right
dogs
there.
right there. So the trailer needs to hold 20 dogs.
Yeah.
Sleds, or in the case of the last race, like these big land rigs with like wheels. So he's got a huge trailer. I guess last year it got stuck in the snow and it was a real pain in the butt.
Oh, trying to get home or
So they initially, when we saw the snow forecast, they were like, yeah, we're not going to go anymore. And I was like, damn, that sucks. No, what can you do? But then it ended up seeming like Saturday. All right, I'm not going to drive up because we got nailed.
Yeah.
I mean, I was outside like 4 or 5 times. My dad dropped off a broken snowblower for me, and I threw my back out.
Oh my God.
Only one wheel was working, and then that one failed too, so it was a nightmare. But then on Sunday, it was supposed to be like sunny and beautiful, so it's like, all right.
Try that.
Let me think about it. I said, so after the snow, or like during the snow, they were like, yeah, we're not getting much. Like, we're probably going to go. And that was on like Friday. So then Sunday comes, Sunday morning. I'm like turning my car on and Ashley met, hey, we're not going. I'm like, what? I guess she heard that the I don't know, parking lot wasn't plowed or whatever. And so they didn't want to get stuck.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I got the gear loaded up, which took 3 minutes. That's not a big deal. But I really wanted to do it for me as well. Like the first race, I wanted to go get pictures for her and experience it. And now it was like, well, whether or not you're going, like, I really want to get these pictures. And like it's snow, they're on sleds, it's real. Like, not that wasn't real the last time, but it's like real sled dog racing. So I'm like, I'm going no matter what.
Yeah. There's snow on the ground. So
yeah.
it
So
looks
this one
good.
was longer, 10 miles. The last one was 2 miles, which was a sprint. So this one they went out, did a loop, and then came back. And I didn't realize that I got to plan ahead better. That's one thing I've learned. So I got my gear set up a little bit down the trail, video camera, and then I had my photo camera. Best way to get shots is going to be to get low.
Yeah.
You got to get, if you're shooting down at the dog, it
looks weird.
it changes that sort of perspective. Yeah. Whereas if you get that eye level, low shot, like they look bigger, they look just like they pop. You know? And so it's like, all right, the trail, I've got to stay off the trail obviously because they're running.
Yeah.
So I got to go to the side of the trail. Well, they just got snow, so I was basically waded off the side of the trail, waist deep in snow, and just laid in the snow.
Ugh.
They let, I think it was 9 teams, with like a minute or two between starts. So.
And then are they just timing how long it takes them to do the 10 mile?
Back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from the parking lot to the start, it wasn't far. It was like maybe a couple hundred feet. But an ATV pulled the teams down to the start. Then they hooked it up to the sled, and then off they went. So that process was 9 teams times, let's say 2 minutes, so like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's when I should have went to my car and warmed up.
Yeah.
Because they're doing 10 miles, right?
And
in my head,
sad.
I'm not. So I sat there for about an hour, freezing, like any second now, half an hour later, any second now. Finally, you know, here they come. But it was incredible. Like, what was cool about this versus like the land race was by the end of it, because the front dogs, like every dog in front of you is kicking the snow. They all, like all their faces were covered in frost. They just looked like the tongues,
intense,
the drool.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I met some really great people as well. So like, let me take a nice big swig real quick because I've been dealing with a little bit of annoying. So I've been getting flack for suggesting that we do not yell at dogs. And I met a musher, a British woman, Lydia, who is extremely soft and sweet, and she just talks to her dogs. And like, it was amazing seeing, she won the race. She started 3rd and came in 1st.
That's crazy.
But she's very adamant, because some mushers, I mean, you can really hear them screaming, like from, like, it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
you're making me feel a little, but she's so quiet. She just whispers commands to them, and they're amazing. And she's very, so all weekend I was like battling in my head, like, am I the idiot? Am I wrong? Like, for holding, but then she kind of made me feel better, reinforced that, like, no, yeah. And she commented, like, you know, I love your advocating for dogs. And so it was a great day. It was a great experience. I met a lot of great people. So like, that's why I want to keep going back to those events and doing like free photography. Like, I don't care about making money from them because it's not about that. You know, like,
It's about the dogs.
Yeah. For me, I wanted to go up and just get those pictures for me.
Yeah.
It was like completely selfishly like once Ashley was like, we're not going, it's just like, well, I'm going because I want these pictures. You know, but of course I'm going to share them.
Yeah.
But
it's an experience.
I wanted them. Yeah. So I think the next race is Laconia, but that's supposed to be like a serious, like very highly competitive. So it's like, maybe I'll go there and maybe make some money.
Yeah,
you
maybe.
Know, who knows? So, yeah, I had fun. It's always a pleasure giving back to the dog community. Actually, February 12th at Barrel House Z in Weymouth, they're hosting couple like vendors of like doggy, like one woman makes like poop bag carriers.
That's cute.
A couple little like things like that. There's going to be a character artist, and there's going to be 3 rescue/shelters. So this is a brewery, 6,000 square feet inside.
That's crazy.
I'm going to go and do the photos of like all the people meeting all the rescues, and so it should be a really good event. So if you're in the area of Weymouth, February 12th at Barrel House Z. So yeah, just events like that just, I love giving back that way. It just makes me feel so good. I don't know. I love it. Anyway, so we're here today to talk about good vets, bad vets. They do exist. It's a reality. And how you can maybe identify if you're getting taken care of properly.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good way.
yeah.
I think
you're gonna obviously have way more, or you're gonna have all the knowledge here. I'm just gonna be picking your brain.
I mean, you have some experience too. You take your dogs to the vet, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. Things to consider when you first start looking is, for your personal knowledge, is what to look for. Obviously, check to see if there's a breed specific or breed group specific doctor for your breed. That's always super helpful if you get a vet that knows your specific breed or mixed breed.
Is it common for vets to be like versed in particular breeds? Like,
yes.
Obviously, you're probably versed in Borzois, right? Because you own them.
Yeah. Same with doctors. Some doctors love certain breeds more than others, so they start to specialize or, just, really only see that one breed.
How can you find that out if say they don't necessarily like advertise that?
Yeah, so
just call and ask.
You can call, ask if they have any breed-specific doctors. Facebook is a good place to, get recommendations. So always get a recommendation or do inquiries into the hospital, read their reviews too. That's super important. But Facebook, you can Google it too. One of my doctors is Bulldog. She loves bulldogs. She specializes in bulldogs. And has owned them and cared for them and bred them for longer than I've been alive. So she knows her stuff for bulldogs, which, you go to a normal vet, they may not know as much for that specific breed and their requirements. So always check that out. And like I said, get personal recommendations. So talk to, people who've gone there. So go on Facebook, go to one of the, local groups. Be like, hey, has anyone used this vet clinic before? What was your experience? You want to learn for yourself as well. Read the reviews, like I said. There's always reviews, usually positive and negative, and you gotta take everything with like kind of a grain of salt for the reviews, because some people are angry that they didn't get their way when it couldn't have been possible. I
personally love the 3 and 4 star reviews.
Yeah,
so I feel like they're usually a little more like on it. Like a lot of the 1 stars, it's just like half the time it's just like, oh,
couldn't get me
no
in.
Helping you.
My dog has a broken leg and it's a primary care vet. They couldn't fix my dog's leg. Some stupid stuff like that. So take a grain of salt with that, and then also inquire about the doctor's approach. So when you call to schedule an appointment, be like, are they a holistic type vet? Are they old school, conservative, or are they up to date with recent, medical studies? Do they go to the CEs, which are pretty much just like legally they have to, but it's programs that they can continue their learning. So continued education is what it's called. Usually for vets, they have to get a certain amount of points, CE points, to get their license for the next year. But if they're going to like modern CEs, so up to date CEs and not just like old school, they're continuing the learning.
Yeah, not being stuck in the times. That was huge when I worked in like IT, because IT, it's like, with computers and technology is constantly advancing.
Always.
Like, if you don't stay on top of it,
Yeah.
you're quickly just like out of the loop and lost. Yeah.
Some people like, you know, old school doctors because they tend to be a bit more conservative with what they recommend, what they treat, you know, but that's not always, you know, should be the case for certain things.
Meaning what, they're less likely to like opt for extreme measures, you mean? Or
they're more likely to, you know, start with like the basics rather than being like, this is everything that should be recommended. And then from there, having you choose what you can afford. They're usually like, let's just start with a bland diet for, say it had like diarrhea, for a day or two. And if it doesn't get better, we'll try something else, you know, type of thing where, some doctors are like, let's do probiotics. Let's do a bland diet. Let's do, anti-diarrhea, antibiotic.
So to troubleshoot multiple areas.
Exactly. To try to cover the whole basis.
Yeah. To get them fixed quicker.
Potentially, yeah. Sometimes that bland diet is all the dog needs, you know, but it just depends on the doctor and your dog. Every dog's different. So just kind of finding what style doctor you like. And then we can, you know, go over the green flags.
Yeah. What should I be looking for when I...
So when you call around, you want to see how fast they answer their phone and or get back to your voicemail. It's not always possible for them to immediately answer your phone call. My hospital doesn't have a voicemail, so you have to keep calling.
Now, are you, as a vet tech, responsible for?
No. So we have something that's called CSR, so Client Service Representative, where they specifically answer phone calls, schedule, help, you know, answer questions for the doctors. Like they'll get the doctor's answer and repeat it to the client.
So they sort of act as that communication.
Exactly. They're the middle people. They're the front of the pretty much the hospital. So every hospital you go to, that should be like the first thing you think about is like, are they getting back to me?
Yeah, communication.
Exactly. So if they have
communication's
a big one. And keep in mind, so like I said, my hospital doesn't have a voicemail, so you have to keep calling. Usually they'll answer, put you on hold, and then they get to you when they have the chance. It shouldn't be like, it's not always possible, but, you know, they should get to you in a timely manner. And then if you have to leave a voicemail, you know, be patient. Usually the answer is within, or a callback or answer within an hour is typically okay. Anything longer than that, I'd be a little concerned. The doctor listens to your concerns and discusses everything. Sometimes, you know, doctors will shrug off your concern, be like, so Max has been chewing the wall lately. What are the recommendations? And the doctor kind of just skips over, continues the exam, and, you know, doesn't talk about your concern.
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of almost just sort of like shows me that they're just in it almost for like the money of that visit.
Yeah, just trying to get through the visit.
Like, let me just like try to get you in and out.
Yeah.
Like, stop talking.
Exactly. They're just trying to get through the visit, and they're not like actually listening to your concerns or willing to discuss your concerns type of thing.
Yeah, that happened sort of with Lawson, the double Merle. I watched the
I remember he mentioned that.
Yeah, his gums. One vet, she was like, Jane was like, oh, does that look funny? And they were just sort of like, no, it looks fine. And then the next, she got a second opinion. And they were like, yeah, we're going to want to do like a biopsy. And it looks cancerous, but benign. Yeah. So it's just like, oof. Like, like.
It's very scary when you get like a second opinion and they're like, oh, shit. Like, we should have dealt with this sooner.
Word. Yeah, the C word, cancer. It's like.
Another thing to look for is if they're fully staffed and or have staff that have been there long term. Not every hospital is fully staffed, and it's very hard to keep a hospital fully staffed. But if they have like a high turnover rate for employees and clients, that should be a red flag.
How couldn't someone like myself figure that out?
If you go to the vet for like, say, 6 months, and it's a puppy
you've dealt with
someone new, or that you ask how someone is and they're like, oh, they left,
Okay.
That should give you an idea. Or, like I said, not answering the phones. They seem like they're running around with their chickens with their head cut off type of situation.
Nobody knows what's going on.
That's a sign of being short-staffed. But again, not even if they're short-staffed, just keep in mind that doesn't mean they're not a quality hospital. It just means that sometimes, people have to wait, and, there's not always people who want to work in vet med. It's a pretty crappy job for a lot of people who don't understand what they're getting into mentally, emotionally. The burnout rates are very high, and, you deal with a lot of shitty people compared, you love the animals, but it's the people. Yeah.
Like, I can totally see it.
So people get burnt out. That's totally fine. But if it seems like every time you're there, there's always someone new and no one's been there for more than like a year, like employee wise, then that would be a red flag, because that just indicates poor management.
There's something's obviously going on.
There's, they're overworking their staff. They're underappreciated, not, treated well as well. And sometimes just toxic environments. There's a lot of toxic environment at hospitals where it's just drama. And one of my old hospitals was just like that, and I'm glad I left. But
is it drama in the sense of the doctors judging the patients, or like drama just between
the employees,
interpersonal relationships, or
exactly,
or just
and
it sucks.
It's like
people
that.
gaslighting each other. All
exactly.
Sorts of, I dealt with that.
And it's hypocrisy, and it's just like a lot of shit. It's just annoying. But so keep an eye out for that. If it seems like they constantly have new people, no one tends to stay. Even doctors will, be in and out, high doctor turnover, and even clients be like, so say you go to this vet and, you see how other clients are treated, and they just like, we're not coming back type
what
of thing.
What do you think are some common reasons for like the high turnover rate of vets and vet techs? Is it
just kind of like I mentioned, the overworked, underappreciated, and toxic environment is typically the turnover rate. Reason for the turnover rate.
Is it easy? I know in IT, the easiest way to get a raise was to like literally just go get another job at another place. Mm-hmm. Is that the same?
No, you can usually ask. It's always okay to ask. You may not always get it, but you can also apply to other places and be like, hey, this place is offering me X amount.
The old ultimatum.
Exactly. You leverage that to see if you can get a little higher. I mean, obviously, if you have to go with that other job, then obviously that's the choice or the best option, because, quality of life for yourself. You need to kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, I feel like you don't get a lot of free time.
I do that to myself too, though. I pick up a lot of shifts. So I work my 40 hours a week at my hospital, and then I pick up an additional 30 to 40 at the ER. Just for overtime. I like my overtime. Also, it's just experience that I don't really have a lot of in the ER, and that I want to get and learn, and I feel like that would be useful for the future and also for my pay.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to make you also feel so good to help so many animals.
I love it. I honestly love it, but like I mentioned, it is pretty exhausting after a certain point.
Do you feel it's taking a toll on you? Like,
yes and no.
A permanent toll?
No, I don't think a permanent one. I go through it like weekly, where I'm just like, by the end of the week, I'm like, just leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Let me just do my job.
You need a day or two to recharge.
Exactly. But I do love it. It's just something, I see myself doing for the rest of my life. So, another thing is the employees take pride in their work. So if they seem proud to be, helping your pet, if they're just kind of like, meh, whatever, that should be a flag green flag for, you know, taking pride, willing to go above and beyond and trying their best to their ability to help you. And if it doesn't seem like they're doing that, that should be a red flag.
Nobody, I wouldn't want to deal with attitude if I'm like concerned about my dog.
Exactly.
I want like reassurance, not like to be dismissed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing to think about is finance. If they're willing to try to help you accommodate your finances for certain things. So if they have, you know, payment plans, or if they have wellness plans, those are something to talk about.
I have something to bring up on that later.
Yeah, we could talk about that later. Also, just giving you different options for your price range that you can afford. You know, obviously not everyone can afford, you know, every single thing that's recommended, because, you know, the doctor's job is to recommend everything that's their, the top medical quality recommendation is, we could do all this, but if you can't afford that, they're like, if you can only afford this amount, this is what I'd recommend first based on your price range. So that should be something to look for a green flag, is if they're able to accommodate or have other options for you.
Yeah, like willing to work with you.
Exactly. Even if it's not necessarily like a payment plan, because a lot of hospitals don't do payment plans anymore for specifically like medical needs. Wellness plans are totally different, but like I said, we'll talk about that later. That's just something to consider if they're willing to work with you. Obviously, cleanliness of the hospital. If the lobby looks like trash when you first walk in, and you mention, you know, hey, there's some dog pee on the floor, because that's inevitable, especially when it's snowing out and the small dogs don't want to have to swim through the snow to go to the bathroom. They typically go to the bathroom in the owner's house or in the hospital. Yeah. That's so very common. But if you mention that to like the front desk and they're like, nah, or they don't seem willing to go get someone to help clean it or clean it themselves. The rooms, obviously, if there's trash everywhere, if there's like dirt and fur and they didn't like, you know, sweep up before the room.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to a surgeon and get surgery if like it wasn't a sanitary environment. That would just like,
even just for like the exam rooms, and out back, if everything's, you know, put in place and organized, that's a good flag as well. Will
most places let you view like the room that your dog will be in?
It depends on the hospital. Some doctors are okay with having, you know, clients come out back and be like, this is where your pet's going to be. You know,
because that's something I would make me feel way more like reassured.
Yeah. There's a couple new like ER type places that are very like, it's an open room and you can see everything. Some places allow like visits for like pets who are going to be there for a while. So like pets who need to be hospitalized at the ER, they're allowed to have like a visit from their owner, and you get walked through like the triage area into the ICU where you see everything.
Because it would just concern me if like there was like an off limits area that you can't see, and it's like that's where all the sketchy crap happens. That's what my brain.
I haven't seen any sketchy crap, thankfully, myself, but I can't say that for every hospital, sadly. But most hospitals, they try to keep on top of being clean, and obviously it's organized chaos when the day is really busy. Obviously there's going to be, you know, little bits and pieces occasionally everywhere, but it should be cleaned up in a timely manner, usually for a good place. And then lastly, for my green flags is their willingness to explain things into like layman's terms for people, because you can use all the medical terminology you want. Some people aren't going to understand that. So obviously talking about, you know, basic pet care, you know, just talking about, you know, the difference between a kennel cough vaccine and an influenza vaccine, and be able to describe it to you, as well as, you know, certain terms. So, you know, malignant meaning cancerous and benign meaning non-cancerous, and being able to go into detail for, you know, why each is what it is, you know. That's that
Which,
would be a green
for
flag.
me, like, again, no medical, like, I get all those terms.
Exactly.
Like, half the time you say things, I'm like, the what? What kind of a... Yeah, so for me, that's, like, critical.
Exactly. To be able to understand your own pet's health care. You know, a lot of human doctors won't break that down for you. You'll get your report and you're like...
It's an alien language.
Exactly.
Like, literally.
For human stuff, I'm like, I don't know what this word is, but okay. And they don't say anything about it, and you're like, okay. That should be the same for veterinary medicine. They should be able to explain that to you in detail if you have a question about it, or if you want it to be explained in detail. The doctor should be able to do that, or the tech, depending on what the
ties
the question
into communication.
is. Exactly.
You know?
So those are my main green flags. Obviously, I have more red flags than green, but I kind of talked a little bit about them with the green flags, so I may jump around here. So
That's all right.
So I mentioned high turnover rate and client turnover rate and employee. You know, that's a big thing. Usually, short staff, poor management, overworked, underappreciated being the red flags. And then, let's see. Oh, if they're like a manufacturer type hospital.
What does that mean?
Trying to get as many animals in as possible. And, you know, that may sound good, but keep in mind the quality of medicine goes down.
Isn't the goal to get in as many as...
So the goal is, depending on where you're going. So in ER, you want to try to get in as many urgent things as possible. But for a primary care, typically the appointments are, 20, 30 minutes per pet. So if you start triple booking and the doctor has to rush through that primary care visit, that's when things are going to start getting missed. And
There's only so much time in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's only so much time in the day. And so the more animals you squeeze into an appointment spot, the quality of care tends to go down. And that's obviously not what you want to do. For the ER, obviously you want to get out there, get the animal intaked, get it seen as soon as possible by the doctor, but they're also, trying not to, overburden themselves so they don't miss anything.
And I feel like that's probably a scenario where the communication is probably going to be pretty limited.
Yes.
If they're struggling on time, it's like, all right, I don't have time to answer your questions,
Yeah. And you don't want you go into like a human doctor and be like, okay, yep. And don't really like talk to you. They're just like checking off the boxes and they leave to go to the next appointment because they're trying to rush. So you don't want that for your animal as well. Like they're trying to just, look over your animal real quick. Don't answer any questions. They don't, communicate. They're just like, here's the vaccines. Bye. And then they're running.
That's how you miss things.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how you miss things. It's how you burn out as well because you're rushing to try to get as many things done in the day as possible.
Especially if you in particular care about quality and you're sort of almost forced to like drop that or lower that standard.
And that's not something you should want to do, especially for your own animal. Plans, which we can talk about those. So they're not necessarily bad. I have them under red flags because certain places push them, like the manufacturing type places.
Plans mean like payment plans?
Wellness plans.
Wellness plans.
So usually it breaks down the costs of all their primary care stuff. So the vaccines, routine blood work, exams over monthly payments instead of, paying every time you go in. You just do like monthly payments for a year and that's like a contract and they're not necessarily bad. I like them a lot for puppies because as a new puppy owner, you're going in every 3 to 6 weeks to get vaccines done until they're like 6 to 8 months old. Plus or minus a spay can be included in the wellness plans. I find that helps break down the cost a lot because, a spay out of pocket could be $500, $600 and not everyone has that. But they can break everything down and it can be like $60 to $70 a month for everything. So exams would be included, all the vaccines, routine blood work, the spay. No, not from the ones I've worked at, the hospitals I've worked at. There's usually no interest. they typically actually discount it because they want you to get that plan. I don't know exactly, reasons why
I think similar to a car dealership, and this is just a sort of assumption where like if you can have like someone come in and pay for a car right away versus repetitively coming in and like constantly giving money, it just like I think looks better on the books and stuff, I imagine.
I'm imagining. I don't know 100%, but I do find that they typically discount it more because you're like their client at your hospital and, you expect them to come back. I think it's just kind of helping build a relationship almost. Obviously, not every person is set up to be able to pay $60-$70 a month. I believe it's cheaper without the spay neuter, depending on, your location and your hospital. Some hospitals don't even offer plans. But I put them in the red because some hospitals push them and push them and push them. Like they have a quota to fill, and that is a thing for certain hospitals. They have a quota that they need to fill every month to be like, we're keeping clients and we're getting new clients signed up on them. And I think that it is, a little hard, like unnecessary to have to push them so much to make people feel like they need this plan, because some people only come in and get rabies. So you don't really need a plan if you're just getting a rabies vaccine. Obviously, I recommend other vaccines and stuff, but some people are old school and just want the rabies vaccine, and they come in once a year or once every 3 years.
That's like the minimum legal, like...
Exactly. That's the minimum legal thing. But some people don't always do all of that, and that the plan isn't worth it to them for it because they come in once a year. They spend $400-$500 for, all their routine stuff, or $100 if they're just doing an exam and rabies. Why would you pay $600-$700 for the whole entire year when you could just do that one thing? So I think that should be, thought about. Wellness plans are helpful for people who want to do all the diagnostics for like preventive care, vaccines, routine exams, stuff like that. And you can actually include it like dental cleanings and stuff like that too. But if you're not interested, you should tell them to make a mark on your file so they don't ask you every time. Some people, they're like, oh, you could save if you do this on this plan. Every time you come in, you're like, I've already been asked this like 7 times. I'm not interested. So they should make a mark on your file if you're not interested. But like I said, it is a green flag and a red flag, but it just depends on the type of hospital. Yeah. Let's see. We talked about techs and doctors not listening, lack of sanitation, professionalism. So if you see the techs and doctors swearing at each other and, talking down to you, typically is a red flag. That's not how you want to be treated. And then, thinking about how they treat your animals in the room, if they just, throw them up on the scale, they're like, whatever, manhandle your pet in front of you. If some pets need to be manhandled, I will say. But if your pet is pretty chill and they're manhandling it, kind of a red flag there. It makes you think about what they do in the back. And
yeah, anytime I see something at like the dog park where like an owner, I don't know, I've seen people like smack their dog. It's like, damn, you just did that in front of all of us?
Yeah.
What the hell do you do at home?
Yeah.
Oof. Scares me.
And, I haven't personally experienced anything myself, horrible out back, but, there are probably places where people manhandle and probably smack your dog around a little bit. I'm sure there's someone's having a bad day and they're just like smack.
And that's probably like a cultural thing, probably from like the top down too, where it's just like the whole place is probably like that, I'd imagine. And it's like normalized and like okay. Because if I ever caught someone doing that, there'd be hell to be.
I know. Same here. And then if the hospital isn't properly stocked, so if you're constantly going there and they don't ever have like your flea tick heartworm prevention, or if they never have, you know, the medicine that your dog's supposed to be on. Like some dogs need to be on like enalapril and pimobendan for heart stuff, and they never have it. Keep in mind those two medications tend to go on back order a lot because of how like in demand it is, and they're not producing enough. If they're not able to help you find where you can get that, like they're not able to help, you know, research.
Like if they don't have it, yeah.
They should be able to recommend or try to help you find a place, or write you scripts for that so you can get it yourself. But if they're constantly like, we don't have it, go look online, go find it yourself. Because not a lot of people know, you know, the exact dosages and instructions and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's all. Like, anytime I have a dog sleep over that's got like medicine, it's always like, all right, let me read this bottle 4 times to make sure I'm not screwing. Like, it's very like, oh God.
I mean, you can go do that too, though. You know, go look online, do your own research, see if you can find it cheaper, because some places it's cheaper than at your hospital. That's totally fine as well. Some doctors will write you scripts. Some doctors don't write or ask where you're getting it from, because, you know, Amazon, eBay are not credible places. There's fake products out there. So some hospitals are very particular on where you get your medications from, because if it's not from the manufacturer or a licensed place, it could be a fake product and could potentially do more harm than good.
Yeah, the Soresto Collars had a huge issue with that.
Yeah, from Amazon.
Yeah, the way Amazon does returns is, so let's say I'm an Amazon seller and I sell Soresto Collars. I have like my Amazon website, people go in, they can buy. When Amazon items are like returned and stuff, they are like basically lumped back in. So like say you return like a product that's not like real, like that just gets put back into like with everything else. Like I've read all these interesting articles on how their return process, it's like a lot of just fake crap gets
thrown back in,
mixed in with, you know, you could be a totally legit seller and accidentally get product that like is from some other Amazon retailer that's fake, and it's just like, so I know, yeah, with the Soresto there was a huge issue with, you know, fake ones.
Yeah, and keep in mind, if you're getting medications, you're putting something into, you know, your pet's body. If you're not getting it from a manufacturer or a licensed place, you don't know what you're putting in your pet's body, and it could potentially kill your pet. And that's the same thing with the Sorestos. There's fake Sorestos that have killed pets and or left really serious damage to the neck. So that's really something to think about. If your vet hospital is just like, have at it, good luck, and they're not willing to help you find a place that's credible, then if they're out of stock, because, you know, certain products go fast because how often they need it. So ear meds at my hospital tend to go fast because every other pet has an ear infection, and we go through it so much, and we can only order so much at a time. And so we run out, or we're running low, and you have to keep that in mind. So if we're out of it, usually we can order it online for you and get it home delivered, or we call you when the shipment comes in, if it's coming in like next day or so. So they should be willing to help you get your product if they're out of stock. If they're constantly out of stock and never have anything and never try to help you, that's a red flag. Another red flag this is coming from my own personal, losing my words here. If they don't recommend flea tick heartworm prevention, that's a big one for me.
Flea tick heartworm.
Yeah, so if your pet's not on flea, if the doctor doesn't recommend flea or tick, especially heartworm, especially in areas where it's prevalent, so New England area, down south is loaded with heartworm, but a lot of doctors don't recommend it because they're like, whatever, trying to get through the day, rushing through the appointment. They're like, that's something that you should have your pet on year-round, regardless of weather, because if it's above 30 degrees, fleas and ticks are going to be active because they're not frozen. And mosquitoes, I don't actually know what they do during the winter. So I don't know if they freeze and go into like a trance like the fleas and the ticks, or if they migrate or whatnot. But if it's warm out, there's always the risk. And heartworm's fatal, and then certain, tick diseases can lead to fatality in the long run.
Yeah, I have some questions on heartworm, but it has to do with a little story, I think. So I'll ask you in a bit.
Let's see. And then the last red flag for me is the lack of consent for treatment. So if a doctor just does something without asking you permission, that would be a red flag for me, especially without discussing financing.
And sorry, real quick, sorry if you hear the 8-year-old downstairs. He's an 8-year-old. He's doing 8-year-old things, being crazy.
Living his best life.
Yes, he is happy. We're happy. So if you hear a little bit of background noise, sorry about that.
The doctor should always ask permission before doing something to your animal, just like how you would your doctor would ask you permission before doing something with you. Before your doctor wouldn't run up to you and just shoot you with a vaccine and without talking to you first. So same thing with veterinary medicine. You should always be asked permission or get permission from, the owner for consent to either do treatments for your pet or recommendations or anything like that.
That's wild to think someone might do something without checking.
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of old school doctors will just walk in, do the exam. Based on your history, we'll do the vaccines that it's done in the past and, not mention pricing and stuff. That's just, an old school way. Some people have no problem with that. Some people do. It's just kind of, having that relationship with your doctor where you know what's going to happen beforehand, being prepared. And then also, obviously, if you want permission to just have the doctor know that you want to discuss stuff before they just jump in and do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's like communication almost seems like the biggest factor to like good vet. It's just, all that ties back in.
Yeah. And I did a little side project. I did corporate versus private practice pros and cons. So I just wanted to mention a couple of those real quick.
What would be like a corporate, like a chain?
So like a chain, VCA, Banfield, Blue Pearl, Angel, Tufts, I think they're all considered corporate. Private practice being individual doctors that own the practice. They don't have to report to any board of directors or anything like that. Corporate, some of my pros that I found, they typically have more locations, so more of a possibility of getting your pet in sooner. Typically a little cheaper because they get discounts from, services because they're getting large amounts, quantity for vaccines, meds, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. By the way, that's a basketball they're dribbling.
Are they really living his best life? Like I said, he's gonna be a future NBA player. There are typically more opportunities for internists as well as surgeons and specialists. So if your pet needs to go see dermatology or endocrinology or a cardiology, neuro, you have more of an opportunity to do that with a larger team because they typically have more doctors and specialists.
Are they just hearing that? Would they also be more likely to be more cutting edge?
Yeah, so they typically they're able to afford better equipment because they're getting more money in. So they can usually get MRIs or ultrasoundists or even ultrasound machines, state-of-the-art stuff. If the doctor's request, certain doctors, if they're a specialist, request certain things for technology, and they're usually able to get it. Meanwhile, if you do a private practice, they can only afford what, they make.
Yeah, when I worked at BU doing the dental, some of those dental, it's those x-ray machines. I mean, you're talking
high tech, very expensive.
So much money.
Oh, so much money. And not a lot of private practices can afford that.
Right. Yeah.
So they end up referring you to a corporate place for a specialist. And then they usually have, like I said, more than one location for openings. And ER hospitals are usually related to the corporate hospitals. Some of the cons, like I said, factory type setting, they seem to be wanting to get as much in as possible, rushing people, and, you know, kind of pushing or guilting people into unnecessary, I guess not unnecessary, but diagnostics that, you know, you can do steps up to that. You know, they're jumping right to the expensive stuff instead of, you know, recommending, be like, oh, you can also try this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. They're like, MRI. Yeah. And that's like it's $3,000.
We've got the MRI, let's use it. Yeah. I guess does that make sense in the sense of it's almost like, yes, this will be more expensive than the others, but this will tell us right away?
Yes. So a lot of that, yes. But sometimes I feel like if you're not able to, you know, do that one thing, they're like, do that one thing or euthanize your pet type of thing. Yeah. You know, do what we're telling you to do or your pet is going to die or suffer. And they kind of, like I said, guilt you into it. Not really pressuring you, but kind of guilt you into doing stuff.
And imagine some things there's going to be nothing
other than what you have to
do.
Exactly. And that's it too.
Well, how do you, I guess, how can you be certain that that's the truth?
So obviously they should tell you what's wrong with your pet. Do your own little research. You can always ask others who have had this issue, or, you know, there's a bunch of vet groups online that you can go on and be like, hey, this is getting recommended for my pet. Is this 100% necessary? Or is there other steps? And people will be like, yes, no. And then obviously the corporate has to follow certain protocols, which can limit treatments and options. So something that's, you know, state of the art and not necessarily like 100% okay by whatever treatment. So like there's a new treatment right now for FIP. Why can't I think of the words I want to use? Feline.
Oh, cats.
It's cats. Feline. It kills them. Let's just say that. FIP kills cats. And there's a new treatment that's, you know, I think you have to get the medicine from China, and it's not FDA approved, so doctors in the corporate office can't recommend it, but it's saving cats' lives. And the treatment is like actually working and people are using it, compared to like a private practice who can be like, we recommend this because we don't have to, you know, be a 100% FDA approved type hospital. You know,
test the waters if you were
exactly. I mean, obviously they're gonna explain that to you. That should be a red flag if they don't explain it to you. That, you know, we're gonna try something that potentially could harm or not harm your pet, and we're just trying to, you know, to the best of our ability, try to fix your pet. I think that's the main things for corporate. For private, I feel like they're a little bit more personable. You get to know the people. It's the same, like 2 or 3 doctors. You're not constantly seeing a new doctor every time you go in. It's individualized care. You can easily build a better relationship, I feel, is some of the pros. The cons is less openings to get you in because they are private practice. They may only own 1 or 2 locations. And there's only so many doctors that can get in so many pets, and they typically, like, they don't rush. They take their time, so they see less pets in a day. I feel like their locations can be very toxic, though. There tends to be a superiority complex in those type of situations. Just because, you know, the doctor thinks he knows everything, and they'll look down and treat you like crap as like a tech or as a client. You know, if you don't believe what they say, they're like, oh, well.
So do you prefer to work in a corporate?
So I like them both. They both have their pros. But I think more comfortable in a corporate setting just because you know their protocols, I feel a little better. And
I
I
feel like you have a little bit more support. Like, do you have like
that's
an
a good
HR,
way. Yeah, we have
and, like,
HR.
you can like actually deal with the problem.
Exactly. For, the private places, they don't have HR. You talk to the owner, who is usually a vet, who
Might
usually
just say, too bad.
Yeah,
that's how it is here.
Leave or stay. But this, like I said, toxic environments can happen in both places, but I feel like it's managed better in corporate because there's HRs, there's higher ups that you can go to. You don't always have to go to the manager. You can go to the district manager, or you can go to the one above that.
If there's no union, right? You guys aren't unionized?
We're not unionized, no. Is there places? Maybe, I don't know. I'm not 100%. Another thing to consider is private practices tend to be more expensive because they're paying for stuff. They're not getting those discounts, and they have to inflation type of situation. Every year, obviously, prices are going to go up. Either every year, every couple of years, prices are going to go up, but the inflation is higher in a private practice than a corporate practice. So those are my pros and cons for corporate versus private. So when you're considering a hospital, some also privates are, specialized hospitals as well. So like reproduction vets there's a lot of privately owned practices that are reproduction vets. So if you plan on breeding, I don't know any off the top of my head that are like ERs. Typically, they're just like primary cares or reproduction vets. But the thing,
it'd be fun to work with like puppies, like birthing puppies.
Oh yeah, but you also have to remember a lot of reproduction vets have to collect semen and pretty much just jerk your dog off,
Is that how they?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They don't let them mate naturally.
Some do, but if you are storing the semen for like future litters and stuff like that, after your dog's already passed and you have that semen for years and years and years.
God, I don't know if I could jerk a dog off. It's
a little weird.
I don't think I would ever want to be. I could never be comfortable saying that. Like, oh yeah, this part of my job.
Yeah, I'm sure they use more technical terms, but what they do is they jerk your dog off. So.
Yeah. Oh man.
But overall, when finding a vet, you're gonna build a relationship with that specific vet. Just getting to know the staff and the location, keeping in mind what works best for you, regardless if it's private or corporate. So that's just like the main things. Usually people don't consider price like a big overall. They don't consider price as like a big thing for the quality care of their pet. They're looking for the actual quality care. But keep in mind your finances versus location versus your hospital that you want to, build a relationship with.
Yeah, and obviously vet care in Boston versus, Kansas is going to be two separate. Yeah.
They're always
prices here aren't going to reflect.
No.
Yeah.
So those are my big things, and you can always let us know if you have any more questions. So.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I got some cool little, I don't know, snippets off Reddit that I want to kind of pick your brain with. Mostly posts, and I'm not even necessarily concerned with the answer to that person's like questions, but they sort of got me thinking in different ways. So this one's interesting because I know you've fostered, you've done, you've got all your dogs. So let me just read the post first. It's titled, "I adopted a sick dog today. I'm worried I've made a mistake. I have a 2-year-old mini Aussie mix who's awesome, but a bit high energy. I live in an apartment where we take several walks a day because I work from home. Despite the fact that I work from home, she gets bored a lot because I spend that time at my computer." Obviously, I can relate to that. If I don't bring Bailey and Banjo out, it's you know, that working breed, they need to, yeah. I've been planning on getting another dog for about 6 months, and it's finally time, which that makes me happy that, like, all right, it's not like I'm thinking about getting another puppy. I've only thought about it for a week. Like 6 months, that at least tells me this person put a little bit of thought.
I'm just going to say real quick,
Yeah.
if they're already concerned that they can't keep up with their first dog's mental stimulation,
Yep.
why get another
second one?
dog? Yeah.
Yep. Which will come up here. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's definitely, yeah, we'll talk about it. So I went to my local dog shelter today because they're overpopulated. I tried looking at the website, but the info was minimal, which tells me maybe it's not the best place.
One of those red flag rescues.
If they're not keeping it up to date. Yeah. I'd hoped to get some guidance on a good fit for our home, but they were very busy and understaffed.
Which is common.
Yep. I can imagine, because that's all like volunteer stuff usually, right? At a shelter. I looked at a lot of the dogs and even had to call a friend to come help because I was getting emotional. Sounds like this person's
Not ready for another dog.
Yeah. I considered a couple of 5-month-old puppies, but they were naturally adopted quite quickly. I kept thinking of a big white lab with sad brown eyes. She didn't even get up and come to the gate when I stopped to look at her. She seemed broken. I took her for a walk, still sad and walking slowly, barely reacting to the commotion around her. I thought she needed love and fattening up. I decided to take her and was determined to love her back to life. I applied and was approved to take her. That's when they told me she was heartworm positive. So that's a red flag.
They should have told you right beforehand.
Yeah.
Medical records should be, medical concerns should be disclosed before you actually take the animal home.
You're right. So they gave me a brief overview of treatment, but I didn't truly understand. Instead of bringing home a wrestling buddy for my dog, I'll be bringing home a sick dog who will require a lot of worry and focus. She'll need to be kept calm and sedentary for months. She'll suffer and I will suffer watching her. My current dog will suffer if she's not getting the attention and exercise she needs. On the other hand, if I don't bring her home, she'll remain sad, scared, broken, and sick in a loud shelter, alone in a cage. I'm not sure what's best for her or us. So mainly I have questions around like heartworm, but, you know, without getting like, I don't want to like berate this poor lady. It sounds like she wants to get a second dog to occupy her first dog, which is definitely
Not a reason to get another dog.
yeah. It's definitely like one slice of maybe the pie, but it shouldn't be the whole pie. Like I got Banjo so that Bailey could have a friend. But in addition to the awesome life she already lives, not to like again, my neighbors, I think that's why they got a second dog is because their one dog, they don't walk it. It just has the one little yard. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, let's get a second dog to keep. And now they're both psycho. It's like, that can't be the only slice of that pie. So is it a bad idea? So Lawson and Daisy were both heartworm positive. Is it a bad idea to adopt a dog that's heartworm positive?
It's not a bad idea, but the rescue or shelter should be able to help you with treatments. Typically, they help you, with the scheduling, and they typically already should have a vet that sees the
because that's a pretty
animal.
Serious.
Yeah,
that's like life or death. No.
Yeah, if left untreated, it can kill the dog. And so typically you would want to have like steps that you need to already follow for that pet, and that rescue should be setting you up for that already. It's not a bad idea to adopt them, but they are or should still be getting that treatment in that shelter or rescue, regardless if you adopt them. And I almost feel like if she's in a kennel that's keeping her calm, cool, collected, she's not running around roughhousing with other dogs there. So it's almost like for that specific situation, maybe she should wait until the treatment's actually done to get the dog.
Yeah, how long? Another question.
Especially if she has a rambunctious dog at home, and that may just not be a fit for her. It may just not be a good fit, and that's totally fine as well.
Might be a case of like you want to do good, but
it's not going to be a good fit for your lifestyle. Yeah.
How long can a dog be left positive before there's like irreversible damage? Actually, I guess before answering that, if that's even answerable, what is the damage from heartworm? Do they eat the heart?
So it blocks the heart. So they're worms. Yeah, it fills the heart up. It can cause clots. It can cause blockages. The worms, they look like spaghetti, the long noodles.
So a mosquito bites the dog.
The larva is transferred through the blood, and then
the mosquito bit something that had these worms?
So the mosquito bit another heartworm positive animal. Okay, gotcha. And it transferred the larva from...
So that's just in the bloodstream? The larva?
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh.
Because they're small enough to pass
Because they're in the heart, so it's just pumping. The heart's just pumping them through the...
Yep, it's punched. Ooh. So that mosquito bites that infected animal, and then that animal, or that mosquito flies to another animal and sucks blood, but, it's transferable.
Don't they suck it, but also... like send it back,
exactly.
Right? Don't they transfer?
They have a weird little straw thing.
What the hell is the point of a mosquito?
I could live without them. I know. And like I said, they grow into noodles, so your heart is only like the size of your two palms, and just it fills the valves of the heart. It makes it hard for the heart to beat. It makes
makes you go into like overdrive.
Not almost, even overdrive. It's hard to even pump the heart that much.
So does the dog get really lethargic?
It gets lethargic. It has trouble breathing. It could faint. It could pass out. And then, the clots. It could cause some clots.
So do they die from cardiac arrest? Is that?
They die from the worms themselves via cardiac.
Just like, yeah.
So it's like the cardiac is secondary to the worms. They're the main cause of the reason for the cardiac issues. So it's super important to keep.
So how long do you have from when you're positive to save?
So it's hard to say because every pet's different for infection load. So a pet that has never been treated with heartworm and is getting constantly bit with mosquitoes is going to build up worms a lot faster than a dog that's on prevention, but they missed a couple months and it was, has only a couple, larvae and they take a while to develop. And so it really depends. But obviously the worms are breeding and the segments can break off and cause issues. Segments of the worm can break off and cause issues too. So it's just a really crappy way to die. Yeah,
Jane, I was just talking to her last night. That's why this is all kind of fresh in my head. She mentioned Lawson and Daisy are both positive, and I'm roughly paraphrasing. I'm going to completely butcher what she said, but it's something like, the vet told us that she's good, but like in the future, like way down the road as she gets older, like they're not sure, how it'll play out. Is that like accurate? Like, is this something that as they get older can affect them?
It can affect them, yes, because of the damage from the amount of worms they could potentially have. Mm-hmm. But if treated, there shouldn't be any damage damage to worry about in the future.
So it's not that the worms are necessarily eating away. It's more of like you either get rid of all the worms and like fix it, or there's just too many worms and they die.
Pretty much.
That kind of
Yeah, I mean, you can really kill off a huge amount of those worms with treatment. It's just, are you waiting until it's too late? Or, I mean, the treatment is very expensive. That's why I say it's cheaper to keep your pet on prevention than to do the treatment for heartworm, because it's like thousands of dollars for the actual treatment, the miticide, which is what they give the dog. the slow treatment, I feel like it takes longer and there's more risks, in my opinion, because it's not always 100%. So your dog's still at risk for a longer period of time. But the miticide, I think it's 180 days worth of treatment. You do you do a NOTS test, which tells you quantitative wise, like how infected they are, high, low, middle of the range. And then you come in, or you keep your pet on flea tick heartworm, and specifically flea and tick that does mosquitoes, and heartworm prevention. And then you come in and they're on steroids, they're on pain meds, they do the miticide, which is the heartworm treatment. That's
interesting, because one question I had was, if you're heartworm positive, is it can it be painful?
I think in the end, when you're closer to, when you're having a harder time, pumping blood, and, I'm sure heart attacks don't feel great. Yeah. So I think when it gets to that type of damage, it's probably painful. But when it's, minuscule, I wouldn't worry 100%. But typically the doctor sends you home with like a sedative pain med, like gabapentin, and the treatment of a miticide that's injected right like into the muscle near the spine, and it's a fairly large needle and a very large amount, so that can be a little sore. And usually the dog has to stay the day because the risk of reaction, and they have to get Benadryl and the dexamethasone, which is steroids, injected to it as well. And you do that for, I forget how many times, but
heartworm is intense.
It's very intense.
It seems very taxing on the dog too to
be
constantly, like, not even necessarily physically, like it is taxing physically, but mentally too must be a bit of a struggle. Yeah. If you get to that point of having those issues. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So overall, I don't think that was a dog for her.
Yeah.
I think she wanted that dog because she thought she could do good, but
sometimes you think you're doing the best thing, and if you kind of step back, that's why I like picking your brain, because it's like, all right, I also thought she was doing a good thing, but now that I think about it,
she wasn't really set up or qualified, I guess I would say, to take on a dog with like that. Or I don't think she was ready because she's still having her own dog mental stimulation issues.
Right. Yeah. Like that's the one key thing is, like, when I got Banjo to compliment Bailey and give her a best friend and brother, probably much like you got Fable for Shiloh. But I didn't get Banjo to supplement like me and our activities and our lifestyle. It was, it was an addition. Yeah. So expensive treatments. This one's coming from, I don't know where, but not America or anywhere. Well, third world, I guess. So recently my German Shepherd dog, slightly less than a year old, got sick with some stomach pains, and we went to the vet. They gave her IV fluids and gave us some antibiotics. The pills seem to be slowly working. Granted, he's not a doctor, but she seems to be in pain. Are there any home pain remedies or even dog-safe human medicine I can help her with, which I'm not personally worried too much about here?
People do it here, sadly.
Yeah. I'm in a third world country, and the vet is, one, absurdly expensive. He wants to charge me just for questions, saying I should come in. I already paid an arm and a leg's worth just for one IV bag and antibiotics. Two, he's the only one in my town. So my question here is actually less related to like his specific German Shepherd, but how can I tell if I'm being taken for a ride in regards to paying for expensive meds or maybe treatments that may or may not be needed? And then, so that'll be like question one. And then what if there is only one clinic nearby? And let's say either it's subpar maybe you've had a bad experience, maybe it doesn't have the greatest reviews, and you're sort of like on the fence of like, it's like, all right, well, it's the only place. So I guess, yeah. So first, yeah, how can you tell if like, well, does my dog really need that medicine?
So it would help knowing what was wrong with the dog. I'm guessing since it's expensive to him, he probably didn't do any diagnostics. So he probably didn't do like an x-ray. My guess is he just did the conservative route, which is the fluids and the antibiotic. Without 100% knowing what's wrong with the animal, the doctor can only prescribe so much. So he may only be prescribing what he feels is comfortable for that specific case. If you have concerns that your pet may be painful, the doctor should prescribe some type of pain med for a short amount of time. Keep in mind, pain meds should be given after blood work is done to make sure their levels are okay, like their internal organ levels are okay for the animal to handle those pain meds. So like a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory can really mess up liver and kidneys. If blood work isn't done and say your pet's already in liver and kidney failure, we don't know because, potentially no diagnostics are done, and that could be why it's having stomach pain or stuff like that. So you got to take that into consideration. The doctor should be able to prescribe, something softer to, the gut, just to, maybe hold it over. So something like Galliprant or gabapentin, this tends to be a little easier on kidneys and liver. Without blood work is something they should be able to prescribe, but obviously the non-steroidal is going to be the best, but would recommend blood work with that beforehand to make sure it's safe for your pet to take it. I don't think he should charge him for the questions. I feel like that's just part of basic practice. Obviously, if you're going to be on the phone for hours, then a consultation fee should be administered. But if it's just a couple questions, I don't think the doctor should be charging him an arm and a leg. And then, keeping in mind just what is this owner, doing at home, what is his home care, what led up to these stomach problems is what I would want to know. So I want like a full history.
Right, yeah. And let's say like the only clinic nearby is mediocre, or maybe you've had a bad experience.
It's better to get your pet treatment than not, honestly. Yeah. I mean, if you had a bad experience, I think you just gotta have to suck up your pride and go and get your pet care.
Yeah, bad experience is a very broad term because you can deal with anything from like, they make misdiagnosed and my pet's dead to like something so
a
trivial
disagreement over like
doesn't
nail
matter.
trims weren't done, we get that a lot. Right. So that should be taken into consideration. I don't recommend any homeopathic human meds because that can also ruin the kidney liver. So never give your dog Tylenol. That can kill your dog.
Yeah, I mean, the way I always approach things like this is if I'm not extremely versed and a professional in that, I should go seek the professional's
Exactly.
help.
Don't try
I'm not going to mess with my plumbing.
Exactly.
I will find a plumber.
Exactly. I think it's just not fair to the animal. Obviously, if you have financial constraints, a regular doctor may seem more expensive to you for diagnostics. Trying to, like I said, look into something that could help you. So crowdsourcing some money, not PayPal, Care Credit.
Which, is that worldwide?
I think it is. I'm not 100%, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure Care Credit is accepted in a lot of places.
Guess we can add that to red flags if you charge for questions.
Yeah.
Here's something I've never dealt with. Well, okay, I've dealt with grief in the passing of Chloe, but she wasn't my dog. I consider all the dogs I watch my dog, but like they're not
Your dog, yeah.
So this one's a little sad. I wish the news was better, but after 2 emergency appointments and 2 follow-ups, it looks like Lola's kidneys are failing. We've opted to give her some supportive treatment to improve her quality of life. She's currently on steroids, anti-nausea meds, an appetite stimulant, which I didn't even know that was a thing. Yep. And you're going to have to correct me on my pronunciation here. Subcutaneous fluids? Cutaneous fluids. What does that mean?
So under the skin. So the cutaneous layer of an animal is under the skin. So
like fluid meaning probably blood?
So fluids is like actual fluids. So sodium chloride or LRS, which is lactated ringers. That's given under the skin to help hydrate an animal, given typically what they need. We don't have a subcutaneous layer on humans, so it's not like common knowledge. But for animals, if you ever go to a doctor and you go home and your dog has like a bubble.
The big water bubble, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's subcutaneous fluids. Okay. And that's dispersed over the body to help hydrate them.
Almost like an IV.
Exactly. It's like, obviously IV is better because it's directly into, the vein. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have the money to hospitalize your pet, because IV can only be pushed at a certain rate and volume per animal and their size, the subcutaneous you can be given pretty quickly, usually within like 10, 15 minutes.
It's just a big needle that you fill with.
Yeah, it's just a big needle, and we have like a line up to like a fluid bag. Okay. And we just squeeze the fluid bag, and it has numbers, and we squeeze into however much the doctor recommends for that specific animal. Okay,
interesting. So when treated, she has energy and seems like a happy dog. But we know it's temporary. When she starts having bad days again, we're opting to humanely euthanize. We're spending our last few weeks together doting on her and making sure she knows she's loved. If anyone has advice on helping our other dog through her upcoming grief process, please let me know. I've never dealt with I know it makes me so sad, and I think about it almost every day. Like Bailey will be sleeping on the bed and I'll look at her and I'll just think about how much I love her. And sometimes my brain will wander to one day she's not going to be there. Yeah. And I guess in a perfect world, Banjo and Bailey are a year apart. So it would fit, if they're healthy, that she would pass a year before he passed. And I do often wonder about how can I help him? Because I know, all right, so I guess, all right, 2 questions. How can I help him? And let's say I finally determined, all right, this is the worst day of my life. I need to put Bailey down. Do I bring him? Does he need to witness this, or should he not witness this?
So I feel like we anthropomorphize with blah, 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 blah words. We humanize animals more than we should. I love my dogs to death, but I don't see that they don't understand. They don't have the knowledge to understand. So they may grieve the loneliness, but I don't think they understand the concept that the animal isn't coming back. I don't think they understand the concept of death 100%. So
they do and they don't.
They know something's different, but I don't think they realize 100% the reason for the difference. So they sense that your sadness, so they may seem gloomy, but I don't believe that they 100% grieve to our level. I feel like they do move on pretty quickly and easily. I mean, obviously some dogs are very bonded with another animal. So that's, they grieve because they have separation anxiety. But I don't think they grieve in a way we grieve.
They They just don't have the complexity and the understanding that
Exactly.
we're very unique in that way.
Exactly. And then bringing in the animal,
Yeah, like, is it better for him to witness and know here's, like, she's...
I don't think they understand either. Okay. I don't think they understand that either. And I personally wouldn't want my other dog to see their companion dead. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a very weird, like, concept. Because, like I said, they don't grieve the way we do.
Yeah,
so
they don't look at it the same lens.
So I think it's just a weird human concept that we have. Obviously, some people like it just for their own peace of mind and, to comfort themselves and not the dog. I don't think the dog really grasps the concept of death because they don't think of the future. They think of the present and maybe a little of the past. They know the people who have wronged them. They know the people who they love. But they don't really think of the future. They don't think for the next day.
Yeah, like I always imagine in my head, if I died in a car crash or if Sam never came home, like, to the dog, like, I know I will every day wake up thinking, like, I miss her, or she would wake up every day, like, thinking about me, but, like, they might not necessarily, you know what I mean? Like, they might once in a while maybe make a correlation, maybe a scent or whatever, but I don't think...
I don't think they grasp the concept to the degree that we grasp it. Yeah. I think they get that that dog is no longer here, their friend is no longer here, but again, they go and see, like, a friend at the dog park, and it's, like, the best day of their life.
Yeah, they don't know that the dog is dead and that they'll never necessarily see it again. But at the same time, they're not like, oh, I can't wait till tomorrow when I get to see, like...
Exactly. Yeah. And then, like I said, some dogs are very bonded to certain animals. Mm-hmm. So I think they suffer from the separation of that animal, but they don't understand the reason of that separation. Like they
litter mates, maybe? Like that grew up together and never got...
when you get the puppy for the first couple days, it cries because it's alone at night, or, some puppies don't care. They're living their best life. But even like older dogs that have, bonded very closely with other housemates, they may seem a little gloomy, a little blah, because the housemate's not in the house anymore. So they don't really understand, where they're at. But I don't think they grasp the concept that they won't ever be there.
Now it makes a little bit more sense. Sorry to tie. So if I died, I know that, and I know a dog doesn't live this long, but 40 years from now, Sam will both passively think about me and actively think about me. Like, it might be, like, subconscious and, like, active. But Bailey, if I died 5 years from now, I don't think she'd ever be thinking of me. Exactly. Does that make sense? Like, maybe if Sam said, like, oh, where's Daddy? She might... I don't know what that would... Yeah. I don't know what the word, exactly...
So the word cues, like, a certain, reaction. So Daddy being you... being her person, she's like, oh, excited because, but she doesn't understand, the exact word. It's just, she just knows the cue to that word means her dad, her owner for that time being, but she's not going to be like Daddy in the future. Right.
That's
unless
so cool.
It's brought up.
That's so cool how, like, different we are.
Yeah. And how our brains work and, animal brains.
All right, yeah, so, yeah, it's sad, because I'm going to have to deal with that at some point, but it's, at least that...
I refuse to accept it.
I know.
My dogs are going to live longer than me, I've decided. Yeah. They're going to be
We're going to all die together.
Yeah. No, they're going to live longer, that's fine.
When I first talked to you, it was very apparent that dogs aren't the only thing you have knowledge of. They're the only animal I have extensive knowledge on. And extensive, really being anecdotal It's all just my experiences. It's not really like, I don't know, scientific. Yeah. But you're very, very well versed in other animals. So the nice thing is we don't have to just talk about just dogs here. So I've got a couple little Reddit posts that aren't dogs. So hopefully this will make you happy. The next one, there is one that will make you. But anyway, I want to touch on a little bit about how vets aren't immortal beings here. So we're talking about a guinea pig. My vet didn't properly examine my guinea pig's teeth, despite me asking her to. And she missed a major tooth root abscess that will now require surgery. How can I address this with her office? As the title indicates, my guinea pig has a serious tooth root abscess, which went unnoticed during the exam with a new vet. And that missed diagnosis has led to delayed treatment. I specifically request, and we're going to just take her word for it here, because obviously, like, we don't know this exact situation. Like, it's a he said, she said. So let's just assume she's correct, just for sake of argument. I specifically requested his mouth and teeth be examined when I brought him in for an appointment last week, because he wasn't eating hard foods and has a small bump on his jaw. I asked for this exam on multiple occasions to multiple staff, during appointment scheduling, on paper during intake, during several follow-up phone calls, and in person when I picked him up. After examining him twice and holding him overnight, I was told staff could not see his molars because his cheeks were full of food. So they weren't actually checked. He was treated for GI stasis and sent home. I don't know what the heck that means. What does that mean?
So if a guinea pig or a rabbit or any of those type of animals who need to be constantly eating stops eating, their gut shuts down pretty much.
Okay. Like koala bears. Don't koala bears constantly eat? Yeah.
I'm not. They're not in the same family,
is it because their food is so like unnutritious that they have to constantly eat, or like?
I think it's just the way they're set up. Horses are the same way. Like it's just like their GI system shuts down and it gets stasis, being infection. So they get infected GI tract pretty much.
Ugh. Not fun. So his condition didn't improve. So I took him to a second hospital for a second opinion, which is something I'm always very, I don't know, I don't want to say against, but I'm personally such a passive person that, like, when I'm told, I'm like, oh, okay, sure. So brought him for a second opinion. The other facility immediately found that he had a severe tooth root abscess, requiring a referral for a skull CT scan and surgery at a different animal hospital. By the way, this is a guinea pig, so, like, props to this person for not being like, it's just a stupid rat.
I love put them down at the point.
Yeah, I love when people really care about, like, quote unquote stupid.
Pocket pets are so commonly put down even before they're like a year old because of issues. Because people are like, I can get a new one for like $3, which is really sad. You're getting an animal because you love it and want to care for it. Don't.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was told his mouth had a significant amount of pus in it when he was examined, and the vet who examined him emphasized this was an emergency situation. I also found out guinea pigs don't actually store food in their cheeks. So
I was going to say that. I was like, that sounds so weird.
So what the first vet saw was actually the infection. I feel this was absurdly negligent, but I have no idea what to do about it. I've sent the office an email explaining what happened and received no response. I'd appreciate them updating their protocol for small rodents to include a full dental exam to prevent this in the future. I don't expect my money back, although that would be great. Does anyone have thoughts or advice in this case? Now, I don't necessarily care about the guinea pigs situation, but vets, you're a human. Mm-hmm. And humans make mistakes.
Humans do make mistakes. I would first wonder if that is a vet that is qualified to look at exotics.
It was when I was reading further in the comments, it was an exotic. The first one was an exotic. The second one was not an exotic.
So that's
interestingly enough.
Weird. If it's was it a new vet to the hospital?
Yeah, to the exotic hospital, yeah.
So I'm wondering if they just joined because they want to do exotics and want to become specialized, but they don't have the actual experience. Yeah. Because I was going to say guinea pigs don't store food, so that's one of the big flags I saw there is, you know. Another thing is it is harder to, if the animal's awake, to look in their mouth. Obviously, the back, it's in the back. Their small teeth. It's hard to look in their mouth. So I understand, like, the mistake can happen, but the things that the doctor is saying, so like the food in the pouch or in the cheeks, is a red flag that he may not know, or she, exactly what they're talking about.
So what I'm curious here is vets are human, and therefore, like, misdiagnoses will happen. It's good. There's no.
A lot of things can look like a lot of things,
right?
Sadly.
So how do you deal with, like, being wrong? Like, when if you're ever wrong,
which is never, obviously. But
yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Again, vets are immortal. They're yeah. You know, I mean, I've been wrong in the past. Not even, like, it doesn't matter what it's in regards to, but I'm typically just honest, and let's try to take a lesson.
That's the same
from that mistake.
How I take it. I'm like, I was wrong about this situation. I misread the situation, or I didn't understand 100% what the situation was, and therefore I could have missed something, and I own up to that. I'm like, that's my bad. It was a miscommunication on my behalf.
Do you try to, like, one thing that's critical for me is, what can I do in the future to prevent that, like, from happening again? Is that something that you're constantly thinking about?
Always. Yeah. How can I improve myself? How can I make myself better? How can I learn from this? The vet med community, you're always learning. There's always something new. So you're always learning from past mistakes and present mistakes to help future situations avoid that. So I think if that was a new doctor for that person who doesn't know her animal, or it was a new doctor to that practice, they may have not known. So getting a second opinion, I probably would have done the same, because, again, the red flag that they said that there was food in the mouth, cheeks.
Now, see, someone like me wouldn't necessarily know that that's true or false. So, you know, to play devil's advocate, you know, I might find myself in that person's situation where I'm like, oh, okay, they had food. But luckily for them, they did go and get the second opinion.
The owners know their animals. So if you know there is something wrong, there's typically something wrong. The situation itself, it's, you know, obviously you want to get that pet in sooner rather than later, but I don't think it's life or death within the day, depending on how bad it was. Usually it should be seen within the week. And the pet should already be on antibiotics, should be on pain meds, should be on, you know, a special diet. GI stasis is also caused, you know, a secondary issue to the main issue, because if it doesn't want to eat, it's not digesting food, and shuts down the GI tract, and that's a whole, it's like a somersault down a hill almost. Yeah. And then there's rocks at the bottom.
Is that common in rodents?
So I don't,
like, having
rabbits
to constantly
aren't considered rabbits are lagomorphs, which aren't rodent. Lagomorph. It's the scientific term for rabbit. They're not in the rodent family, but they have the same similar GI tract to a guinea pig, which is in a rodent family, or a hamster, or I don't know, a chinchilla. But also horses, which aren't in the rodent family, suffer from GI stasis often. I think it's just a herbivore type thing. Okay. they all rely on hay.
Yeah, like I know, again, koalas
Not,
with the eucalyptus, it's
yeah.
like very, it's, I swear, I researched something on koalas where like the eucalyptus that they eat is so minimal in like what
And
they need that they have to constantly
eat.
just.
And I think that's just that specific species of marsupial.
Okay. Funny little creatures.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say that hamsters do not eat hay. That's something that can actually give them respiratory issues. So.
Okay.
But guinea pigs, guinea pigs, chinchillas, rabbits, all requiring hay, and horses. Those types of animals typically have GI stasis issues.
Okay. Have you ever been accused of something that you had no control of?
I was accused of blaming a dog for being aggressive when it was aggressive, but the owner said it wasn't.
Okay. Anything else in terms of like maybe medically?
Not medically, really. I think it's just more like miscommunications where owner says like this happened, but I took it as a different, like how it led up to it type of happen. And obviously, you know, we're not seen the same as vets, so they're going to tell more to a vet than to a tech.
Almost like nurse versus doctor.
Exactly. Right. So I go in and get a history before the doctor goes in, and sometimes clients will say one thing to me and then the complete opposite to the doctor. I don't know if they're just trying to sugarcoat stuff to me, and then when they get in with the doctor, they tell the real issues. Because I'll go in and they'll be like, the pet's fine, and then I go tell the doctor, the pet's fine, they want to do this, this, and this. And then the doctor will go in and be like, okay, so let's do this, this, and then the owner's like, wait, I have all these concerns. And so I think it's taken as like people don't appreciate my job as a technician, as well as, you know, just the miscommunication being an issue, but never really medically. I've never like really done anything medically wrong. I follow strict protocols myself. Yeah.
So yeah, this one's interesting. So, my dog went in for unknown mass removal today and died during cleanup. Help me understand, which I don't know what cleanup means. Help me understand, please. I'm so confused. What's cleanup? Is that?
That's not a real term.
Okay, cool.
Go finish okay, what cool. It is. That could help me answer mine.
Yeah, my Bichon, 10 months. 10 months. Wow, that's a baby. Had a lump grow over the last month under his armpit. Vets first thought possible abscess and treated for infection. Then we had brought him back at the end of his steroid and antibiotic round as instructed. The vet was going to operate there and then, but wanted to do x-rays and ultrasound after he was put under anesthetic for needle aspiration. The vet concluded it was pockets of fluid and organized tissue and said surgery wasn't needed at that time, as it wasn't like all of this. I have no idea what is going on, but at that time it wasn't life-threatening. Also, final appointment of his day, and he was away for a week and said he would be best to see if it reduces and comes back the next step once he returned. That was today, and he said he removed the mass this morning. So we left him in their care for the operation. He called me 3 hours later to say the bad news. My dog survived surgery and mass removal, was said to be getting cleaned up and coming around after anesthetic gas. Okay. Then he took a sudden turn, couldn't breathe, then had cardiac arrest. Attempts to resuscitate failed.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense now that you've explained it.
I have him home and have now brung myself to bury my best friend. I'm struggling to understand how this went wrong. What could have caused him to suddenly pass, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't think she's necessarily blaming the vet. I think this person understands that things happen. But, like, yeah, like, have you ever been accused of like, oh my God, you killed my pet, when it's really like, well, no, or like,
so
how do you deal with like this type of situation where?
for that specific situation, I would want to know, what type of, like the report of the cytology, which is the fine needle aspirate. Did they send it out for a specialist to read it, or did they read it in-house and they're like, it's just fluid? Another thing to consider is, why did they put it under anesthesia originally for the aspirate? Was it too wiggly? Was it crazy because it's a puppy and didn't want to be poked? That's common, but typically we're able to get samples while an animal's still awake.
Especially just thinking 10-month-old Bichon.
It's small.
Should be easy to.
And then another thing is, why is it having this issue when it's so young? There's something medically, quality-wise of that animal that may not be right. So a failure to thrive type situation, where it's having genetically, issues. Every dog is obviously different, but to have issues that young would make me be like concerned for its future.
Yeah. How would you now let's just say like you dealt with this and they were adamant it's your fault, like you killed my dog. Is that something?
I mean,
how do you deal with, like, I gotta imagine some people must feel
it's heavy. It's like a heavy subject.
'Cause it's such a tough.
I've personally never lost an animal while under anesthesia, but for that surgery to have happened, they should have signed paperwork that had all the surgical risks involved. Animals do die under anesthesia. That's a real thing. So when you mentioned that they were cleaning the animal up, so they were probably taking all the iodine off, they were cleaning him, getting him, prepped to wake up fully, and he was coming around. Animals sometimes crash when they're getting recovered. That's not common, but it does happen. Again, one of those things is that are, in the paperwork that you should be filling out for that surgery goes over that. The animals do crash, like during pre-med, during surgery, and recovery. Recovery, they're still intubated, and they're just, recovering. So the anesthesia is turned off, and they're recovering.
And that, obviously, you're not liable because this person obviously would fill out the paperwork, understand the risks.
Exactly.
But yeah, I imagine some
I'm not
people,
liable, but I still feel bad or guilty almost, because I'm like, what can I have done different to help the situation? Again, I've never had to go through this situation myself. We had one dog that crashed after getting a pre-med, which is supposed to, knock it out a little bit for its catheter. But it was reversed within seconds, and that's how quick we have to be able to react. And obviously when they fill out surgery paperwork, they fill out a CPR versus DNR form. So do you want us to resuscitate?
Right,
exactly. So they obviously chose resuscitation, and they tried, and, some pets happen to not, survive that.
Is there...
It could be a reaction to the anesthesia, the meds.
Why would you choose? I'm struggling to find a scenario where I would choose do not resuscitate.
Some pets just don't come back the same because they go through the trauma and they come back and they're not normal.
If you told me, hey, Bailey's brain dead, I'd say, all right, let her go.
Stuff like that, when they've been under for so long and they don't come back. Sometimes resuscitation doesn't work. You could potentially break ribs just like humans. And then there's the trauma of that they have to get through, additionally with the trauma of why they went into cardiac arrest. So there's a lot of reasons, financially too. It costs.
I can't imagine being a vet.
It costs more to do CPR for the drugs and stuff. Some people can't afford that, so they choose DNR because they can't afford the additional $400, $500 of the cost of CPR, the cost of the drugs to resuscitate, the cost of the doctor doing emergency stuff. Some of those are the reasons as well. I've had, I've never been accused of killing pets, but I've had, well, I haven't had it die on me, but I've had get vaccines and have a reaction, and then we had it stable and transferred to an emergency vet where it then died.
What do you mean by reaction?
So anytime you give something into the body, there's a chance of a vaccine reaction.
Like a rejection?
Pretty much. So vomiting, diarrhea being the lower end.
So are we talking, all right, we give the vaccine and the immune system just like shuts down?
The whole entire body.
Just goes all...
The whole entire body just shuts down. The more severe being facial swelling, hives, and then trouble breathing. So they're swelling up so much that they're having issues breathing. That's the most common, or not most common.
Very rare.
It's very rare. I think I've experienced vaccine reactions maybe 6-7 times in my...
And how many vaccines have you given out?
10
hundreds
years.
Of thousands?
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So like less than 1%?
So it's very low. But when the more severe happens, they pretty much like pass out on you, and you have to, get a catheter in. You gotta give them that's steroids IV. You gotta give them Benadryl IV. You gotta get their airway. You may have to intubate them and breathe for them on a machine. So I did have one of those happen where it got vaccines. It came in for a routine exam. It's had these vaccines before, and the pet just reacted.
I wonder what the heck. It's obviously something we might never know, but I wonder.
Just like how, people could be allergic to foods, they've eaten their whole life, and then one day you have a reaction to it.
Yeah.
And
no allergies.
Your throat.
They say come and go kind of in.
Allergies too. You grow up no allergies, and one day you're having trouble breathing, Those being more severe ends, obviously, but we did have that animal come in. It was like a mini schnauzer. It was getting its rabies and ProHeart, which is a heartworm shot, which I love that shot because you don't have to remember to give a tablet every month. And I used it for Jetta. I give her ProHeart 12, which is a year-long shot.
Yeah, I think we give them some like Tootsie Roll type little...
Yeah.
They love it.
Shiloh and Fable get Simparica Trio for their flea tick and heartworm combo. But I love the shot because I struggle with remembering when to give the tablets myself. And I'm a vet professional, and I struggle. So I can imagine other people struggling. But that one, I don't know, she got rabies, she got her ProHeart, and I think she got a kennel cough vaccine. And she collapsed, vomited like 6-7 times, like within seconds of getting those vaccines. She had to be brought out back. I had to give her a catheter, and she was pale out of it, not doing well. We got her stable enough where she was breathing on her own to go to an ER, and then later in the day she passed. So she never recovered. And that does happen, but it's so extremely rare.
So this is going to be an oddball one.
Okay.
And I don't want to get super political, but let's talk about vaccines for a second.
Okay.
I'm just looking right now at little puppy Charlie. And so I know his owner, John, is very, John, love you. This isn't me complaining about you. I love you. You're an amazing man. Let's just say I'm left, he's right.
Yeah.
In terms of the political side. He's not big into like the COVID vaccine, blah, 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 whatever. With his old dog, before he had Charlie, he had a dog named Ted, who sadly was hit on 3A. John swears that as Ted got older, his brain was getting worse and worse, and he thinks it's due to vaccines. How important do you think vaccines are do you think like they can cause severe harm in that way? Is there a reason you shouldn't vaccine your animal, or should you always?
So
like Charlie's vaccinated. He's vaccinated, but I don't think he's, let's say, as vaccinated as, say, Teddy. I haven't talked to John in specifics, but obviously he's got rabies because it's required. But let's say that's all he's got versus Ted, who might have had a bunch. Is that, I don't want to get crazy political and like.
So I don't think it affects it to the degree that he thinks it is. They do get doggy Alzheimer's. That is a real thing where they have brain degenerative diseases.
He kind of thinks that and I want to be very careful here because, John, I love you. Whether or not you're listening to this, I don't care. Part of me thinks that in his head, he's rationalizing the death of Ted through... Hi, baby. Through the fact that Ted lost his mind and therefore he wandered onto 3A type of deal versus like not taking accountability, but almost blaming like the vaccines for like the decline in his dog's mental state as opposed to just being like, well, an accident happened.
Yeah. And I get that. I think he's just trying to find a way to comfort himself. Like I said, they do get doggy Alzheimer's, which is a real thing, where they have brain degenerative issues, and that's a real thing. I don't think it's correlated to vaccines, to my knowledge. I do believe pets should be vaccinated for the area that they live in. So obviously rabies being required legally throughout across the country for our country.
Hey Sophie, you ready to go potty? Mama's trying to get you here. Let's go potty. Go find Mama. Go potty. Silly girl. She's sleeping over tonight. I love her.
She's so cute.
Yeah. I've never. She's my first lab, and I love labs now. I love any dog, honestly.
They're just a happy existence. There's no sadness to them.
All right, let's real quick move on to...
Wait, I didn't finish.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, be vaccinated for the area that you live in. I always recommend at least rabies, distemper, kennel cough, which is Bordetella. Have a yearly heartworm test and be up to date on prevention.
Bordetella, is that like chicken pox? You get it once, you don't get it again?
No, that's kennel cough. So Bordetella is...
Or sorry, kennel cough. Kennel cough you get once and you don't...
No, they can get reinfected. But that's common for dogs who come in contact with other dogs. The other vaccines being, lepto, Lyme, influenza. You can, play by, are you in a wooded area? For Lyme vaccine, are you in an area that has small animals? So rats, mice, rabbits, squirrels. That's all transmitted by them, and raccoons and foxes and stuff like that. Raccoons are cool. I love raccoons. Yeah. Their little hands.
Yeah. I love that they wash their food.
Yep. And then influenza, are you going to daycare or dog parks or dog shows, competition events, stuff like that? That's common. Those are more like the optional vaccines. I think there's other vaccines out there now, for specific locations and areas. And
it can be hard if you're anti-vax. It can be hard to want to get your dog vaxxed, much like sometimes I see like vegans who feed their dog vegans diet. It's like,
don't recommend that at all. No to vegan diets for dogs and cats, because cats are specifically obligate carnivores, which only eat meat. Dogs are omnivores, so they eat both, but typically they lean towards meat. So their diet, if you're going to do raw, is typically meat, bone, organs, and then supplements of veggies, wheat, stuff like that,
Okay.
grains. But I forget what we were talking about now.
No, that's all right.
We went from that to
We were talking about
a whole nother
the
long
Bichon,
conversation.
the Bichon with the mass removal who died. But should I be mad at my vet? Here comes a good thread.
I'd be upset, but I don't think I could have the right to be mad because you signed those papers. Reading those papers, you understood the risks that if you put your pet under anesthesia. From what they sounded like, almost sounded like a lymph node thing, where I'd be concerned that it was cancerous. Even though they said it was fluids, I would be wondering why there was a buildup of fluids in a lymph node area type of situation. But there's a bunch of diagnostics. I probably wouldn't have done the x-rays. I probably would have only done the ultrasound, though, because that's, if you wanted to figure out more, the ultrasound would have told you more for masses specifically.
How familiar with parakeets are you?
I think I'm a bird person, so
You're pretty good with them?
I feel like
cool.
I could potentially answer.
Ready for this headline?
Okay, I'm ready.
I declined euthanasia. 1 month on, my pet is thriving.
Interesting.
But it feels like my vet really wants to have been right, which obviously is a red flag.
So I want to know the logistics of this.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of, I'm going to be asking you, what does that mean? 4 weeks ago, my beloved tame parakeet suddenly presented with fatigue and weakness. Mm-hmm. Blood tests at my exotics vet revealed AST was off the scale. What is that? What is AST? With uric acid and phosphorus both within normal limits, but still high. I don't know if any of that.
I think that's something with the exotics blood work, but I'm not 100% with exotics blood work as I used to be.
No worries. She strongly recommended immediate euthanasia. I'm a fairly assertive person. I'm not. But I found it very hard to follow my instincts and say no. In the end, I begged to try 24 hours of treatment and reassess, as he'd been his usual self just the day before. She reluctantly agreed, but said we'd have to have a very difficult conversation the following day. But the next day he had improved. I took him home after 4 days, and in the month that's followed, he's continued to improve, regaining his appetite, 20% of his body weight, his flight ability, and even starting mating again. Which I wonder if she has multiple birds.
Yeah.
Right now, his quality of life is currently better than mine. Obviously, he's still a chronically ill bird. That's still weird. His quality of life is better than mine, but he's a chronically ill bird. I'm sorry, what? I'm under no illusions. But weirdly, it seems like my vet is incredibly reluctant to discuss his future or ongoing care. I've paid for consults and got very guarded and defensive answers. I get the distinct impression she doesn't want to say anything that suggests I did the right thing in refusing euthanasia. To check I wasn't just deluding myself, I drove several hours to get a second opinion. The new vet had requested my bird's history from the other practice, and on exam, was surprised to find him presenting completely different compared to his file. They didn't include copies of his blood work, but I had copies of those for myself. Hey babies, go see mama. Hey, can we go find mama? Hi, Banjo. Oh, thanks for kisses.
Hi.
Little doggy break. Hi Bailey. You want to be on TV?
Hello.
Bailey wants to be on TV. Oh, you want to be on TV? Bailey, speak. Speak. Good girl. All right, go find mama. Let's go find mama. All right, Sophie. Sophie, can we go find mama?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Soph. She's such a weirdo. Where's Sophie?
She just ran out.
Did she go?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, Bales. No, Bailey, go see Mama.
She says, no, thank you.
Hey, go see Mama, okay? Go see Mama. Go see Dudu and Taki, the kitties. Go get the kitties, Mama. Go. I'm almost done. Go. You don't have to be involved. Go ahead. We're live on the air. I love my dogs. I will never not let them interrupt my life.
I feel that.
They can do whatever they want, and I'll accept it. So the new vet was clear in her opinion that I had done the right thing in not agreeing to euthanize, and that she's a happy and well bird. She suggested repeating his blood work in about 6 months' time. Ideally, I'd really like to stay with my current vet. They're local, they're usually excellent, and their research and treatment facilities are the best around. I totally recognize that any diagnosis can be an opinion based on what's presented on that day, and I don't fault my vet for her initial prognosis, but the experience since then has really got me doubting their policies and their ability to stay neutral. I'm just not sure they're putting my animal's best interest at heart. So that one's just interesting because...
Yeah, while you were reading that, I looked up AST, so that's like liver. So concerns with the liver. My guess is she was concerned it was in liver failure, and recommending euthanasia based off of how he was presenting, and she thought that the parakeet was probably gonna suffer because of it potentially being in liver failure.
So do you think this maybe is like a communication issue?
I think it was a communication issue. I think based on what she's saying, it could have been an acute liver poisoning of some sort. So the pet probably got into something and caused liver damage, which is why the new vet suggested blood work recheck in 6 months to make sure the liver is still improving or, where it's at.
So would you say the first person was... Obviously, they're wrong. Is wrong the right word? Like, so if
based off of the information maybe she had,
yeah, it's tough. I know
she probably went off of that. But to continue even after improvement, then I'd be like, okay, well, I have a second opinion. I'd like to continue my care with you guys, but if you cannot, get past the second opinion, I may need another vet either at your location or at a new.
So really, just talk with.
I think it needs to be discussed. Yeah. I think it needs to be talked about in length with the doctor, being with the blood work and how the pet is doing now. Obviously, what they were saying originally is the prognosis is guarded, which is totally okay to say because we don't know. We don't know what caused the potential issue with the liver. We don't know if it's going to happen again, or if it was like a reaction, something that it ate, and pancreatitis, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of factors play into that, but I think it needs to be a conversation with that doctor that originally saw it if they want to continue their care there.
Yeah, because mistakes, again, you're a human.
Yeah.
Mistakes happen.
Based off of the information she got, she gave her best recommendation for what she thought was right. Doesn't mean that doctor is always right because, again, based off of the information she got and her opinion on how the animal was at the time versus, what it's doing now could affect that.
Do you deal with many people or few people who come in sort of assuming that they know what's wrong? Like, let's say they looked it up online.
I have people assuming, but they wait for the doctor's final diagnosis as a confirmation almost. Usually the people I've dealt with are pretty, nice. Thankfully, I've dealt with really good clients. There's the occasional few who are like, I want this for this ear infection, even though I don't know what type of ear infection it is. The dog had it before without, doing an ear cytology where we can tell exactly what's in the ear and prescribe the correct dosage and stuff like that for the specific ear infection. They want the same meds that they got a year ago without an exam, without the ear cytology. They just want the meds without having to pay for, the discussion with the vet.
Right, like figure out if that's actually what
it
it
is.
needs, yeah.
And
yeah, because like before visiting the vet, I did my own research. I went online. I got an idea of maybe what my pet's symptoms are, and therefore, Web Vet MD, I don't know, whatever, says it's this. Yeah. Do you ever have to So let me read a quick story, because then I do have, I guess, a sort of question with it. Should I be mad at my vet? So I had a Staffy bull terrier. She was shunned by her mother, so the rescue we got our other dog from asked if we could foster her. She was bottle fed, all around amazing dog. She turned 2, and her temperament changed. I know I shouldn't Google, but some sites mention a possible brain tumor. Now, just quickly dissecting that, she was shunned by her mother. She was bottle fed. She turned 2, and then she went, let's say, haywire. I personally don't see where the connection to brain tumor is.
So,
but
I feel like I can understand. So, usually the parent, like the
I feel
mother
like Google
animal,
always it over
exaggerates. Yes, yeah. Dr. Google over exaggerates, but you also have to take into considerations why did the mother animal reject its offspring. A lot of animals who reject offspring can tell that there's something wrong. So say it's a bird's nest and one of the babies isn't thriving. Some birds will kick that baby out of the nest, and that's why people find baby birds on the ground. Not all the time. Some fall out, but...
Are we then the only animals that will accept the imperfections of...
I think yes.
Interesting.
I think at a certain point...
Because it is survival of the fittest
dogs,
for a wild animal.
It is.
Like, if you can't survive, you're dead.
Good luck, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas we can actually...
I think So I feel like the mother or parent animal can typically pick up on an issue while it's still in the minor stages. Which is why we find failure to thrive rabbits, failure to thrive squirrels, failure to thrive birds, because it's usually kicked out of the nest because it's just going to take more effort for the mother to raise it than to, focus on the healthy babies. So why did this mother dog reject this baby puppy?
Maybe the brain tumor.
Potentially, but we don't know 100% unless the dog gets an MRI. So I can't say 100% yes or no to this issue.
Well, it gets a little weird.
Okay.
So I took her to the vet to be looked at, stated what I thought was wrong with her, aka Google said it was a brain tumor, and the vet chalked it up to just simply puppy aggression. She was 2. Fast forward a few months, and the vacuum cleaner running made her snap. She ripped my arm open to where I needed 30 stitches. That's a lot of stitches. Animal control came and got her. I had kids, so I didn't trust her anymore. They asked if they could try to rehabilitate her and send her to a rescue. I was okay with that, as long as they informed them of her history. They called me the next day because she stared at a wall for 16 hours straight. Didn't eat, didn't move. Again, let's just assume she's 100% right. The guy smacked pots and pans together, and she didn't flinch. She was no longer my dog. When they put her down, they did an autopsy and found a brain tumor pressing on the part of the brain that controls behavior. I know he's a professional, but I expressed my concerns and he ignored them. Again, he said it was puppy aggression. I know, sorry, now I have $2K hospital bill instead of a surgery bill for something that was fixable. Not necessarily true. And I'm kind of devastated. Should I give this vet another chance, or was he wrong with what he did? So my main question here is, before visiting the vet, I did my own research. I got a rough idea of what my pet is experiencing. Why is the vet giving me conflicting info? And how do I know which of those two separate avenues of info to trust?
So I think I see where the vet is coming from, because that is a very young age to have a brain tumor. So I feel like he or she was probably like, why would this animal have a brain tumor? What, it's a young, supposedly healthy animal. It's a bully breed, so they're prone to already, aggression and issues like that. So they can chalk it up to needing more training or something in the home life. Staring at a wall is obviously not good. There's certain behaviors where you think neuro. So as a doctor, I would probably, as my recommendation, I probably would have recommended a trainer, maybe some sedation, just to see.
You're very anti-euthanasia for behavioral issues. Right? Which now, in this case, let's say she's right and there's a brain tumor pressing on the part of the brain. She should have gotten
an MRI.
Okay.
I feel like that an MRI should have been done. If she was so concerned for a brain tumor, and go with your gut feeling. You know your animal the best. Obviously, you're not a veterinary professional, but if you seek that and, you still have your doubts, I probably would go with your gut and, do the diagnostic to, confirm that or not. She could have gone and got a second opinion. She could have gone and gotten an MRI, and a head scan just to see,
Yeah, instead of waiting until the dog was dead and doing that at the autopsy.
Exactly.
We could do it while he's alive and maybe fixable.
Yeah, I don't know.
Granted, a brain tumor, that's such a,
yeah, exactly.
Is it fixable or not?
I don't know.
You'd have to see that.
A specialist.
Yeah.
I'd refer you to a specialist because I know nothing about that. Yeah. But that's just like, as a vet, I'd probably chalk it up to lack of training. I'd chalk it up to maybe a behaviorist, to go see a behaviorist, and maybe some medication for sedation to help with training if she was having behavioral issues. Some behavioral issues require medication to make it easier for the training or the behaviorist to help with training. I feel a behaviorist probably would have been able to help diagnose a brain tumor as well. Again, stereotyping, because it's a bully breed. Again, they're prone to issues behaviorally. So
I've heard of a real weird thing with pit bulls in specific.
Okay.
Where if the owner is seizing and they're on the ground, the pit bulls will like attack and kill the owners who are like having a seizure. It's real. I don't know if you've heard.
I've never heard that.
Real interesting.
It is a weird
thing.
I think it's so they do take advantage. Pretty much any dog that is aggressive will take advantage of a thing that is down. Mm-hmm. So human, another dog, I feel that is a perfect opportunity to take advantage.
Yeah.
But I don't know 100%.
Yeah, that's a weird
the facts on that. Like I've seen videos where the dog, like it was like a golden or something, starts seizing and the pit bull dog runs and jumps on top of it, and they're like, it's trying to calm the seizure and wake him out of his seizure. You can't wake animals out of a seizure. Yeah. That dog is being aggressive and dominant, and that is not taking advantage of the situation, and that is not a good situation for the future. Even though the dog may have not been the dog, but the dog seizing cannot control itself. Mm-hmm. So if that dog flails and that dog takes it as an attack, that's going to be your seizing dog seizing and your other dog attacking it.
Yeah.
Not
a fun thing to be dealing with.
Again, survival of the fittest is what dogs are.
Savage.
Cats are,
It's
you
a
know.
savage world. I mean,
As much as they adore their housemate, they're going to take advantage of a situation type of thing.
This one's interesting because we have a person who owns the animals but was away for a little bit and the animals were neglected. So will my vet believe me that I'm not neglecting my cats? So I'm mostly wondering about where do you draw the line in the sand to judge a patient or not? So, hello all. I have a question that isn't exactly medical, but it's definitely a question for a vet. I graduated from college last week and got custody of my cats back from my dad after living in dorms for 4 years. My dad fed them, but that's about it. So my young short hair is now extremely fat, and my 18-year-old Maine Coon, who I've got a couple little Maine Coon mixes, so I know I can relate. He's tiny, but he's covered head to toe in mats. They haven't been to the vet in 4 years. I'm taking them next week to get them up to date on their shots and looked at and to have my old lady groomed, but they look terrible. I'm so sad and I'm so self-conscious about it. Will the vet believe me when I tell them that I didn't do this to them and that I'm going to take care of them way better than my dad did? Do you judge people based on the condition that animals come in or the condition that animals go out? Because if you deny treatment, obviously that can be like a red flag. Like I judge you.
I judge
on
you
that.
a little bit from the...
If it's something curable. And
Exactly. I judge it a little bit.
Do you judge when a pet comes in?
I do to a point. Obviously, there's two sides to the story. So once I get the history, I go in before the doctor, I get a history, and they say that, and I understand that. I love older people.
Like here's someone who does care. So this person's trying at least.
The animal's coming in, it's getting seen, it's getting taken care of. Older people, back in the day, dog goes loose, like they let their dogs out and they come back at dinner time.
Yeah, they used to roam the streets.
Exactly. So that's a mentality of a lot of older people. So the animal eats food and he's fine. If he's eating, he's fine, and which isn't always the case. So I do judge that the animal's in that condition, but I understand the situation. Obviously, if the animal keeps coming back in that condition and there's no improvement, then I start to get a little skeptical of the owner. So it's really based on the situation. We have people who come in with animals who cannot be groomed by groomers because they weren't socialized properly or desensitized properly as a puppy. So you get a Maltese and it's never been groomed in its life, and now it's a mad mess and it won't let anyone groom it. They have to get sedated to be groomed. Like they get yearly sedated to be shaved down. They don't get a nice groom. They get shaved to the skin. And then we see that animal every year or every couple of years for the same thing. That's more on the owner, where they get an animal and don't realize it requires the actual care that it needs. Long-haired dogs need to be groomed every 6 to 8 weeks.
And the groomer is such a routine thing.
And you got to get them used to it when they're younger, so that they're set up for success. If you don't do that and then you bring them in and they're grooming and it hurts because they're pulling mats out, it's setting up a negative experience for a groomer, and your dog never wants to go to the groomer, and then it bites or tries to bite and the groomer won't take it because they don't muzzle groomers for liability reasons, because the animal can overheat because it's so stressed, and then the animal comes in and we have to sedate it fully to be able to shave it down, and that's always a risk itself. Because it has to go under anesthesia. Yeah. Same thing. Some dogs need sedation for nail trims. Some dogs just really don't like it. And even if they did it when they were puppies, some dogs just hate it that much because they had a bad experience.
It's crazy.
And it sucks, but
But they hold that trauma.
They hold the trauma.
Huh.
Like I said, they remember their present and their past. They don't look forward to the future.
Yeah.
So whenever that nail trim comes in, they're like, my past. Yeah.
And we're pretty good about that too. Humans, I feel, are pretty good at remembering the negative.
Oh, yeah.
Like putting the positive a bit to the side.
Exactly. So. You remember the trauma before the positive.
Mm-hmm. All right, so 2 more like Reddit stories.
Okay.
This one, I don't know enough about the vets to even begin. So why will they let pets die at the vet if you can't afford the treatment when they don't do that at human hospitals? I was just wondering about this after I had an experience bringing my cat to the ER, emergency vet. Excuse me. He needed to be unblocked right away or he would die. They let him suffer while I called everyone I knew to beg for a ton of money that I didn't have at the moment. Luckily, someone helped. I just think it's kind of cruel that they were just going to let him die in the waiting room if I couldn't give them money right away. I obviously understand billing me afterwards, but up front? Like if someone homeless is found dying on the street, the hospital doesn't say, yeah, he doesn't have money, we're just going to let him die. Just curious why it's different. And there's like an asterisk. I'm not saying you vets and vet techs are responsible. I know you work hard. My issue was with the receptionist who treated me coldly. And more importantly, that there is no funding for animals.
So there's a lot to this.
Yeah. This is like a
There is funding for animals. There's something called like hope funds. So if you have no money, you got declined from care credit. It's called hope funds and for a chance to help potentially save your animal. A lot of times an animal comes in for a sick visit and you've never seen this animal before, so they're not a known client. So billing you after, we may never see you again type of thing. So you may never pay for those services. A lot of doctors just require a deposit, not usually everything up front. That situation is dire, so it's better to be seen and get
unblocked.
Done.
Was that a UTI?
So, not a UTI. I mean, it could be a secondary from a UTI, but pretty much where they can't urinate. And if you can't urinate for more than, so if your male cats don't urinate for more than 24 hours, that's an emergency situation because their bladder could explode internally. So that's it's typically male cats because...
What's blocking it?
Typically like a crystal or a stone.
Also, something hardens up. Okay.
Yeah. Sludgy urine blocks it. So that's a true emergency.
What would cause something like that? Diet?
Genetic diet and stress. If they're stressed, they can be prone to it. So some cats, after leaving the vet clinic after a primary care visit, can get blocked. Yeah. It's typically male animals that it's dire because females have a wider opening. It's very rare for a female to get blocked, but male dogs and cats are more prone to it. Typically cats, because they have a small ureter or urethra. So that's an emergency, a real emergency situation that needs to be seen ASAP. So typically...
That kills you? I gotta imagine that kills
Oh, yeah, if your bladder
right?
ruptures internally...
Is that what that is?
Yeah, you get sepsis.
That's not an immediate death then, huh? That's a
pain. It's super painful.
So
if a cat's blocked, they're very painful to touch. Yeah, it's a really crappy situation. I do understand, the way like trying to get everything. Obviously, the doctors want to help your pet, the techs want to help your pet, but policies, they have to follow policies. That's one of the things, like private practice, you may be able to get away with like a payment plan if they offer emergency services like that. But like a corporate hospital or ER, they have to, within their policy, to either accept a deposit or payment of some sort. Like I said, there is hope funds, there's care credit, there's, you know, hopefully if you had your pet on insurance, that helps. But for those type of situations, we do also understand, and we also feel horrible during the time that we have to wait to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it's not like you're a robot who has no feelings.
Yeah, no, we feel exactly the same as you. We feel crappy. We feel that's another reason for burnout and compassion fatigue. We care so much that we're fatigued from it. That's why we get into the field.
Like, I don't want to say that individual's feelings are not important because that's their animal. Yeah. But you're dealing. We're dealing with it as well. That's only one animal you've dealt with that entire day.
Exactly.
You know? And that you.
And I see.
While you don't have the same relationship, you still care.
I still care. That's why I'm in this field. I care for the animals. I'm here for the animals. I'm not here for the owners. I'm here for the animals. I will support owners, but I'm not there specifically for the owners. I'm here for the animals.
Which is funny because that's my whole philosophy with my dog photography. Yeah. When I do this sled dog racing, for instance. Yeah. I see pictures. So to get a little nerdy with photography, a shorter focal length means you get a wider field of view. Oops. So if you got a 35, like we're shooting on a 50 millimeter right now. If we doubled that, well, it would be twice as, you know, zoomed in. What was I talking about? I don't even remember.
You were talking about the zoom.
Yeah, what was that relating to? Oh, so the dog photography. So I could use a really wide or short focal length and capture, say, the musher and the whole range of dogs and get a really nice picture, like of the trail, the person, but like for me, I focus on like the dogs. I want to get zoomed in real close and focus on like
the animals.
The animal. That's where my pride comes from, not from like.
I'm the same way.
You and like I just care.
I care about you. I want to see your animal.
Yeah, that's just You've talked about bloat quite a few times here. Repeat bloat. Have you ever heard of any? Is that like a thing?
It is. Okay.
So I vets wondering if you experienced recurrent bloat and again, bloat is what the stomach's basically sealing itself off.
So the stomach is flipping and closing itself off. It doesn't even have to be in or out. Exactly, and it doesn't even have to be the stomach. It can be different internal organs. It can be a lung. It can be pretty much anything that's like loose in the body. And it can be called torsion too. Not necessarily bloat. The stomach is what the bloating part because of the air that's trapped in there and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So on Sunday, our 18-month Saint Bernard, and I know, excuse me. I know you mentioned is typically the larger and deeper chested.
Saint Bernard,
yeah. Had an emergency gastropexy.
Yep.
I said that right? Wow. Gastropexy surgery due to bloat and twisting stomach/spleen. What the heck does the spleen do?
It filters toxins.
Okay. So that's something that has an input and output, and it got twisted. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times when they bloat, they do tear their spleen or rupture their spleen or torsion their spleen.
Is that, does that mean that if you ruin your spleen, just toxins are like building up? Or?
Not necessarily. They can still process things. You can live without a spleen. But internally when it's in there and it's either ruptured or torsioned, it's not good because it can cause sepsis and infection. My aunt's son's dog actually had GVD, so gastric dilated volvulus, which is bloat. So his stomach flipped. this summer, and he had to go. I sent her right to the ER because I happened to walk outside, and she's like, "What's wrong with him?" And I'm like, "These are all classic signs of bloat, so you have to go right now. It's life or death. You gotta go right now."
What a scary thing to hear.
Yeah, and he tore his spleen, and I think he had some of it removed as well. And then today, actually, my grandmother, who has a litter mate from that German Shepherd, had her spayed on, and she got preemptively stapled so her stomach won't flip. Doesn't mean they're not prone to bloat still. They can still bloat, but the stomach won't flip. So it's not as emergent, but it's still
like anchored.
It is. They anchor it to the rib cage. Huh. Yeah.
Interesting.
The more you know.
Holy crap. That's great. That's awesome.
So usually if you spay your deep-chested large breed or even small breed, there's deep-chested small breeds, you can ask if your doctor does gastropexies. Not every doctor does gastropexies, but you can do it as a preemptive thing for if you were to spay neuter, since they're already going under, why not? Mm-hmm. You can even do it without spay neuter, just go in for a gastropexy, which is the tacking of the stomach.
Okay. So he had an emergency tacking of the stomach.
And that's a lot more expensive. Let's just say that.
Than preemptive.
Then, yeah. To do it preemptively, it's thousands cheaper.
Okay. He recovered at the vet for almost a week. Still has slightly elevated liver levels and low red blood count. But both are trending improvements. Exactly 2 weeks after, on this past Sunday, he bloated again. We rushed him back to the ER, and because he didn't show twisting on x-rays, we left him there to see what would happen. He released the bloat on his own. So
he bloated, but he didn't, his stomach, nothing twisted. So like I said, bloating is still emergent, but isn't as dire as the volvulus, the torsion.
Because at this point, he's been stapled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Shiloh actually had it as a puppy. He bloated.
Oh, that must have scared the hell out of
him. Oh
me.
yeah, I thought he twisted. So he was terrified. Oh yeah, I think he was like 4 or 5 months old. He just ate. I let him out to go to the bathroom
because heart rate, like, 3,000.
I was dying. I was having my own aneurysm and heart attack.
Yeah.
Torsion of my own going on. But I brought him into the emergency room because I thought he torsioned because he had a little bit. I let him out to go to the bathroom and he got zoomies. Mm-hmm. For his breed, they're not typically supposed to exercise within a half hour to an hour after eating because they're prone to torsion or bloat or volvulus. So I brought him out. He got zoomies and he immediately vomited. And that's one of the signs of torsion. So GVD. And he looked a little bloated to me. And he was super uncomfortable and restless, and he didn't want to lay down. So all the typical signs. So I immediately brought him to the ER. And it's very extremely rare for a puppy to get torsion. Mm-hmm.
Torsion meaning what?
The stomach
twisting?
Flips. Yeah, okay. Twisting part. So they did.
What's bloat without the twisting then?
The blockage? Air. Not a blockage, but the buildup of air and
so an air bubble that can't basically like
escape. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's typically after eating a large amount of food, stuff like that, and exercise. It can cause it. So like I said, I was worried about him having a GVD, so I immediately brought him in. I rushed him in. This is back when I couldn't even go back in the hospital. It's the hospital now that I work at. They did x-rays, and he didn't have signs of GVD, but he did have pockets of air. So that case, he was able to release the air naturally, and he got sent home. I waited. This is the time where, like I said, COVID, you couldn't go in. You had to wait in your car. They tell you to go home. I'm like, I'm literally waiting here. So
yeah. Okay, I'm home.
Yeah.
You're just out in the parking lot.
Oh no, I told him I was waiting. I would not be leaving without my dog.
Yeah.
I'm one of those type of clients, and I hate those type of clients. I'm my own worst enemy here. But I waited, and they sent him home, and I stayed awake the whole night to monitor him.
So you just said it, and they also said it. He released the bloat on his own. Does that mean he just farts the air out, basically?
Not
or like
farts. Like, he can either, release it through his esophagus or through his GI tract. They thought he did it. He bloated because he ate more than normal, which I don't think he did. I don't think I fed him any differently than I normally did, but exercise can trigger, if he swallows a lot of air while he's running around, can trigger it after eating. And that's part of the reason why people are so concerned with bloats, because while you're running around after you just ate, your stomach's more likely to rock back and forth and to potentially flip. Even if your dog's like just chilling, laying on its, some dogs sleep on their backs. Shiloh sleeps on his back and it kills me every time, but I can't get him to stop. Just rolling back and forth on his back can cause bloat, or not bloat, but GVD. So the whole torsion of the stomach.
Just thinking about that, Bailey sleeps on her back a lot, and border collies, I would say, do have a deep. Is that something?
They're not as deep, so I'm not as concerned for border collies, but every dog can be prone to it. Okay. Rolling around like crazy.
Yeah.
Stuff
so,
like that.
So they said, he released the bloat on his own. Any suggestions to prevent him bloating again? We do 3 smaller meals a day. Calm for 30 minutes after eating. You just said an hour.
I prefer an hour just because it's safer.
Yeah, and they say puzzle bowl ? Which I personally love anyway. The little
puzzle bowls makes them eat slower, so they're not gobbling food down and inhaling as they eat, because they swallow air when they gobble all their food down. Some people will even feed on like a cookie tray, just like a flat tray. Okay. If you don't want to do a puzzle bowl, and it slows them down because it's flat. That's a good way.
Just fill their mouth.
Oh yeah, inhale their food literally.
One of my clients has a dog. All right, I call him the King Cock.
Oh my goodness.
He's a King Charles and Cocker Spaniel mix. Yeah. So I call him King Cock. Little Teddy. He's got cherry eye.
Okay.
I don't know how old he is, but he's had it for at least like 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
I think I read online that if you don't get it fixed, it can lead to like the eye being dried out.
Yeah, you can
Is that
get
something he should?
Dry eye.
He's not sure if he should get it removed or not removed.
I recommend it because it can cause dry eye. It can cause corneal ulcers, which are super painful, and discharge buildup, stuff like that.
Yeah, he usually has a lot of like green, snotty looking.
Yeah, brown is normal. Green is gross.
Okay.
So anytime your dog has green discharge, it's gross, which means it should be treated.
Like an infection. Exactly.
The surgery itself is not always 100% because it can come back.
Okay.
But I do recommend it because it prevents those issues, which cost you more
like
down the line.
Life
exactly. Quality of life improvement. The medications typically add up pretty quick, so it's easier to save for the surgery than to not do the surgery. And, a lot of times it doesn't come back. It's just there is a possibility that it can come back. Okay. And it's just removing that membrane. It's so gross. I've seen the surgery so many times. Yeah. But I do recommend it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's the end of my questions that I've got. Unless you have anything else to add.
I don't think I have anything else.
All right. What do we do? Hey, whoa. 3 hours. That's a good one.
That's the longest one, I think.
Yeah, no, that's good, though, because it was all, like, good conversation. Yeah. So
catch up for the last 2 weeks.
Exactly, yeah. It's been 2 weeks. You had a great 2 weeks in Hawaii.
Yep.
and I'm happy for you because as even though my dogs don't have many issues yet, I don't have to frequent the vet often except for my annuals, but I very much appreciate just like, because your job isn't a job that you've been working, like, it's such an accumulative job. Like, how long have you been working there? Or doing like vet type?
2014. So I'm 2 years from 10 years.
Wow.
And I started in exotics and wildlife. And then in
That's 10 years of your life that
2018, I went to dog and cat.
Yeah, just dedicated to like helping and...
Yeah, and I had no knowledge when I started for dog and cat. I started while I was still in high school as like a humanities project to work at the wildlife center, intern there, and that just progressed to me rehabbing and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but thank you, seriously. Like, not like just, I don't know. I love anyone that helps animals. It's awesome. So, all right. Well, hopefully we gave you lots of content since we were gone for 2 weeks.
And if you have any questions, we can try to answer. I am not a vet, so I can't diagnose your pet, but I can give you my best recommendations as I do daily for a lot of people, so I'm okay with that.
And obviously, if in doubt, go to your vet.
And if in doubt, go to your vet or to the ER. And then also when you're trying to find a doctor, making sure you build a relationship with that doctor or a couple doctors that are at that practice. Be aware that one doctor may not always be available. Some doctors only work at certain days of the week, and you have an urgent question. You know, that doctor may not be available, but another. So build not reputation, but a relationship with a couple doctors at the same practice that you decide to go to, whether it be private or corporate. That way you have people you can trust and feel comfortable with, and even get second opinions within the same hospital, so you don't have to go to another hospital.
Perfect. I guess we will see you next week.
Yes, next week.
Alrighty, thank you for taking the time to listen to us bumble. We very
As
much
always,
appreciate it.
Cheers.
Good night. Yeah, we did it. Hey, 3 hours.